From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be millionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of your hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
She is. We have a guest. This is like a full circle podcast, Vicky. Do you know why?
Tell me why.
Okay. So if you remember back in the deep, dark days when we first started our team, I wrote a letter into the Three Pedal Mafia Everyone Racers podcast, and they had me on to talk about starting up a Lemons team. So what are we doing now? We have a new to Lemons team that said, hey, I've got questions, and we're going to see if we have answers. So we have, I don't know that the team has been announced yet. I don't know that they've decided on a name yet. I'm not even sure if they decided they've got a car yet. But with us, we have New to Lemons, Team Bagnall. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Bill. It's good to talk to you.
Nice talking to you, sir. We've touched base a few times, and hopefully we'll be able to help you out. So just for everybody who's not familiar with you, I know you've talked to a few other Lemons teams around. Can you give a little bit of background, and we can get everybody up to speed, and then we'll see if we can answer your questions.
Great. Well, Lemons is something that I've been interested in for a couple years now. I kind of got into it in a backwards way. I watch a lot of YouTube, probably more YouTube than anything. And I was watching a lot of Will It Run and First Start in 30 Years, Light Script Garage, stuff like that. I love all that stuff, all the Will It Run stuff. And then through that, I started getting 24-hour Lemon stuff. And right away, I was hooked. I was like, this is crazy. I've got to learn more about it. So I've watched everything I could find, all the wrap-ups and everything I could find on it. And that's how I found you guys.
Awesome. Well, from our earlier conversations, it looks like you're going to be team manager and pit crew.
Right. Well, team captain and manager. I am disabled, so I won't be driving, which is pretty unusual. I think most people their motivation is to drive a race car. That's not what I'm about. I'm into the creative side of it, the fun side of it, and I think there's plenty of work to do.
So
besides the driving,
you have mobility to get around, though, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to inform you that we are part of an HPDE group that specializes with people with handicaps. So cars. So you coming around, even though that you have a disability, is not uncommon to the race area, and it doesn't slow people down.
Right. Well, the main thing is to, like Jay likes to say, get off your butt and do something. So this is something that I've been interested in a long time. We did recently purchase a car. We've got Duff Beer's recent C-Class winning Volvo 850.
Boop,
and
boop.
It is a piece. I know you guys have seen him on the track, probably passed him a few times, maybe even got passed by him once or twice. So we do have a race ready car, and that part is we feel pretty good about that. That's one of the first advice that we got from people is it's pretty hard to build a Lemons car to start out with, and a lot of them said, and I think even Bill said, get a caged car. Buy an existing Lemons car. You have plenty of stuff to do other than build your car. Although that's something I would like to do too. I would like to build a car.
I think it's a lot easier to build your second car than to build your first car.
Right.
Because you kind of have something that you can look at and say, oh, what did they do here? And it may not be the best thing that they did, but at least you have an idea. Because a lot of our struggles, especially early on and still to this day, is what's our options? What do people normally do? And trying to figure those out is sometimes it's really, if you know the answer, it's really a silly question. But if you don't know the answer, it's baffling.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. When you started the team, Bill, were you the originator, the team captain, the instigator?
Most people blame me. Yeah.
That's a good term for it right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but did you already have a core group in mind when you started up, or?
Originally it was, I wanted to do it. I somehow got Vicky to say yes. It's like the second time in my life I got her to say yes. So and then
right.
Our son was into cars and still is into cars, but he's hitting that lull where other things are occupying his time, which is fine. Mm-hmm. So there was three of us, and we were looking for a fourth, and we finally found one, which was one of his friends. And that's kind of how we started. And then we went to our first race, and Jennifer came and watched and saw the disasters that we were doing. And for some reason, she thought that looked like fun. So she said, "Hey, could I do this?" And we're like, "Sure." And then our other friend, Alan, who's on the team, he saw when Vicky posted something on Facebook that we did this, and he's like, "Hey, that looks like fun. Do you need anybody else?" And Vicky's like, "Well, we don't know anything about what we're doing mechanically." And Alan's a trained mechanic, so we were like, "Come on in." And it just blossomed from there. And we started the second car. And that was a bad idea, but it was fun. It was a bad idea, but it was fun.
Were you doing any racing before that, or was this your introduction into racing in general? Or
I think for
be honest.
You're killing my ears. So I edit a lot, so don't worry. So I think what happened was I had done things in an unofficial capacity. We'll go with that, when I was younger. And then I got smarter and didn't do anything in an unofficial capacity. Alan had taken a couple day classes at either a Skip Barber or something like that. But I think everybody else came in stone cold, and we just started from nothing. So
now you're doing track days and HPDEs and all kind of other fun stuff, is what I understand.
We try. We've got to be okay. I don't think anybody considers us a fully cooked cake, but we're getting faster. Vicky's coming along quite nicely. She's going to be in her third level of HPDE at her next event, hopefully. And we're getting there. Jennifer's come along from negative number or 0 to where she's cooking. She'll be in HPDE 3 next year. So it's right. Anybody can really do this if they want to.
Now, did you build your first car?
No, we bought the first car we bought was a circle track race car, which then we sold because it was not what we needed. The bad plan. And then we bought, actually we ended up buying 2 race cars from another Lemons team, and that's how we got started. That was our first 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago was that, Bill?
That was, I think we bought those cars in February of 2017 or 18.
Maybe. Yeah, I was right around there.
17 or 18. I'm not quite sure.
Now, in your initial year, how many times did you end up racing?
First season, we raced in 5 events and went to 2 HPDs.
Wow.
3 HPDs.
We did not know anything. We actually used a U-Haul to get us there, trailer and truck. I don't think we used it. I think we rented it from the truck from a rental agency to get us there the first season. Because we just really want to see if we liked it. And, we were hooked after the first race, but we just started building on it slowly from there.
Now, you don't need to talk me into it, but if you were explaining it to somebody else, why race lemons?
Why race lemons? I have my opinion that I like to race lemons is
they're slower than grapefruits.
Well, Because there's a few factors in why I think that it's good. Lemons is a great entry level. It's a forgiving area. It's a great place to learn. People there don't take their racing too seriously. It's kind of like going out and playing football with your friends when you were younger on the weekends. You know, you're not there for so much the prizes. You're much there for having a great time and having a little bit of competition. What you put into your car, if you wreck your car, the level of car that you have and what it goes through on a Lemons track, you can easily walk away from and not feel so bad because the cars are not overly invested in. I mean, besides your safety equipment, besides your whatever, but like if you go upper in your upper levels, things get a little bit more aggro, a little bit more testosterone goes, more competitions.
Pricey. Too.
Right. The races are pricier. And I'm not disparaging any of them whatsoever. Bill is actually wants to level up into some of their races also. But, you know, when you're learning on how to race, there's a lot of people that will help you along, give you advice, help you with your car. They're in the pits. You have any problems, you break your car, you will literally have 5-6 guys with their heads in your car trying to help you fix it because they want you to succeed. They want you on the track. You could walk away from your car and be able to afford to go and put another one together. Which
I really like the analogy you had with the playing football in the yard with the kids, because that's part of the appeal to me was it seems like they would be encouraging and almost protective of rookie teams or inexperienced teams.
Oh, they love rookie teams. They love rookie teams. You know, you will have people that will help you along, knowing that you're a new team out there. Oh, they will help you along. And as you start going through, you know, like I think we're in like our 4th season of Lemons. It's like going out on the weekends with like 200 of your best friends, you know, when you're there.
Like that. And especially in this age, we need a distraction from real life. And this looks like a really, you know, and even though we haven't turned a lap, and I'm not sure how far we are from that, I feel like I've been doing Lemons for years. It's like I tell my partner, Jeff, my race partner, Jeff, I said, every time we get together and talk, we're doing Lemons.
For sure.
We'll talk about it. We're doing Lemons. So
now I'm sure you watch the videos, obviously. But what's there is kind of like what you're seeing is being portrayed and how it's kind of treated and kind of, you know, a little nutty. It's kind of what happens there. And I made a comment because our friends who were just out this past weekend, I think they were just a couple laps in and they had to end up doing an engine swap. And I just kind of told him, I said, 24 hours of Lemons does not necessarily mean track time. It just means that you are probably working 24 hours to keep your car going. So it's good. That's why I like to stay with it.
So you remain pretty much with the original core group that you guys started with, or
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, we've
we're family.
People. Yeah, we've added people
pretty much nearby, and
no.
We're
like 2 to 4 hours away from each other. So
yeah.
Where does the lion's share of the garage work happen? At your place, Bill, or?
Yeah, Vicky and I kind of are the hub. Alan's got his own car now. So he's doing the Mustang, and then Jennifer and Jim and everybody, they come up our way a bunch, and you know, we try and divide it up as best we can. Jennifer's looking to get a project car of her own, so she'll have it'll probably just be an HPDE car that she uses for daily use as well, and then she'll do some wrenching on it and start learning, you know, kind of on the fly there. But the race cars right now are all nearby here except for the Mustang.
How many Lemons teams are you running right now? How many cars you got going?
We just have
just
the one
two.
team, but with
two. Well, we have one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We usually haven't. Yeah, no, you always do, but that's
I'm sorry, trying not to.
So Bill sounds like Vicky sometimes. If you ask a question, that's okay. So I think we've entered 3 cars in one race, is our most that we've done. I think the bulk of our Lemons racing has been done the past couple of years with El Jefe, the trophy truck. We're in the midst of building another Lemons car that's a Honda Civic. And then Alan started racing the Mustang, I think, this year, or was it last year? Maybe last year. It's you start doing this a lot, you lose track.
What do you mean, Alan
When did
driving the Mustang?
Yeah.
At the end of last year, he
Yeah.
did his first race in. No, did he take it to Thompson?
I think he did. No, Thompson was his first race.
Okay.
It was this year because he raced with us in pit race.
Yeah.
With El Jefe. So Alan just started heading up his own, team of teams, and I think he got hit in the mouth with a fire hose. So he was drinking as quick as he could, but he was like, "Oh, this is not quite.
This is not as easy as I thought it would be."
Yeah. So, and then we've got a few other cars that we use for HPDs, so those are different.
So it seems to me like the little bit I know that maybe one of the hardest things to do is get a team together that has some chemistry or friendship, or leave the politics out of it. And then that was another question I have is, are you run more like a democracy or a dictatorship when it comes to like hard questions, whatever hard question might be?
I don't understand the question.
Well,
like on driver shifts or order or fair allotment of fees or costs, or somebody's got to be the final answer, the final word on. That's
a complicated answer.
That's a complicated question. But
well, the question's easy. The answer is complicated for us, but I think.
Well, I guess that goes back to the chemistry of the people that you're working with. Ideally, I suppose you want to work with people that you can disagree with and still be friends.
Yeah, well, you're going to
be
for
friendly.
sure.
Right.
For sure.
Well,
we started out one way and then we ended up another.
Right. So what worked for us is that going in, we're there to have a good time. We're not there to win. Okay. And Bill kind of set that up because we are so early on in our learning for racing and team building and growing a garage and figuring out where everybody belongs.
Mechanically, everything.
Everything.
Right.
That the thing is you have a good leader that just says, listen, we're here to have a good time. And if we finish 50%, that's a win for us. And as we start growing up in our learning, then we'll start chipping away at that. It's always good to be organized when it comes to, and like I can only speak really of the garage. Bill understands more of the back end. But as the garage goes, if there is, you divide up the work. For starters, make sure you have like a whiteboard and it just kind of break everything down, because you're going to have paddock, somebody responsible for the paddock, which is like food, meals. You have a garage queen, or a paddock queen who makes sure that people are fed, supplies are there, kitchen is managed. And then you have a garage person whose job is just to maintain or assist the mechanic, just making sure all your spaces are clean and clear, and manages the tools and packs and unpacks the organization part of the garage, because at some point you got to put all that stuff back on the trailer, so you want to kind of keep it all together. And you have your mechanic. If you're lucky, you have more than one mechanic, but we only had the one to start out with. Mechanic does mechanic things, obviously. And then you have your team leader that kind of organizes. And the team leader sometimes ends up being, in our case, was the runner. You have that runner who has to run, go get parts, and gas is usually done at the end of the day. But as you start setting those chores up, people start falling naturally what makes them comfortable, where they're happy. My sister fell into, being the paddock queen. She's the one that manages meals and the home part of it best. She has a mobile trailer that she brings, an RV. So it was our kitchen. She knows where all that stuff is. I'm already working in the garage with the mechanic, so I just fell into that. And Bill is a natural leader as it is, so he fell into that role. And even though you line it up, people just fall into what they prefer. But it's always good to have a whiteboard for all your responsibilities and all your tools that are going to be, all your parts that are going to start failing on your car, or stuff that you need to run out and go get, or whatever those things are, so you can write them down. Everybody knows. You've
got two lists of parts. You've got the ones you got to do at the track, and then you've got the ones that you need to do after.
Right.
Like, we need to fix this later. We don't have time now. We're just going to limp with it.
Right. But this is going on. We have to adjust this in the car. We don't have time to do it right now. So you make those notes on one whiteboard. We started out with 2, and the second one was drive times. And that was all managed along with pit times, or hot pit times, where people had to be. So they knew what their schedule was and what time they had to be there. Of course, you have everybody's loaded up on your phone, so you can text them wherever they're at if they happen to be somewhere else.
Right.
So having it visible makes a big difference. And that way, if something changes, you could hit the dry erase board, mark it, make it known. People know where they need to be at what time, instead of guessing.
Right.
We didn't do that the first year. The second year that kicked in, we're just like, oh, that makes so much sense.
So we have like 8 or 9 roles. And depending on the size of your team, you may end up doing 2 or 3 roles.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do them
all. To kind of boil down what I was asking, I guess I was thinking, like, one person is designated as a captain, and I have here in my notes: inform, educate, coordinate, navigate, delegate. And it's good to have that one person that's like the answer man. But you have to be doing it in such a manner as to make sure everybody feels like they have input.
Sure,
well,
and it's
to a degree, but
it's kind of benevolent dictatorship. But we try and get invitations and say, okay, who wants to go first? Who wants to go second? Who wants to go third? And work together that way, as opposed to I unroll the scroll that says thou shalt be our first driver and this person shall be in charge of the garage, or whatever. So we kind of do the planning as a team meeting in the morning.
Right. And your very first year is a little chaotic when you do it, because there's a lot of information coming at you. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. There's a lot of not everybody's sure where they need to be. So it's just like, okay, this is what your general responsibility is. But if you have free time, go over and help Jennifer, or vice versa. There's a lot of moving parts. But if that's when we started using the whiteboards, it became a lot easier for people to predict and know where they're supposed to be. And, they have to realize that it's a team. So it's a collaborative effort. It's not a dictatorship. It's people have to work together to make this happen, because you can't do it with just one person.
One thing that's going to be tricky, especially until you guys fall into a groove, is you've kind of got 2 extremes in terms of people. You've got the I'm going to do it, I'll take care of it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to take care of it. And then you've got the other people who are like, well, I don't want to impose. And you need to get away from those 2 dipoles and get more towards the middle and have a bunch of people who are willing to do anything and work towards the common goal, as opposed to, well, I don't want to impose on Jim's job because Jim's, that's his, and I don't want to, Jim may be 200% over swamped with something else and he can't get there, or Ben may not, he's got this over here and this over here and he can't do both. So jump in, say, hey, I know you're in charge of this. You're the lead mechanic, but you look like you're working on that brake being a problem, but I see the exhaust is hanging on the ground. You mind if I go, and you don't even have to, do you mind if I go, hey, I'm going to go take care of this for you? And he's going to be like, dude, you're the man, go.
Mhm.
So you kind of got to balance you got to get over this is mine and I'm going to take care of it. And, nobody shall, because it's one big team and there's so much to do. Nobody can get it done.
There's a lot. There's a lot to do. And I think in our first year, I don't think we stopped moving. We were exhausted at the end of the day. But I mean, back to Bill's situation. Also, it all depends on how you approach it. I mean, if you go in there and say, listen, we are not here to win. We are here to have a good time. And however that falls out and however that pans out, let's just do that. Because the experience is actually to be in the car and on the track, because you're not going to win.
Well, I mean,
that first year, it's listen, if you're just starting out, make that realization that is not going to happen. But
aim to get better.
But you go and say, and this is our expectations, have a great time at the end of that weekend, not during the day. I mean, not during the entire race, but at the end of the weekend, your team comes back together like a day or 2 or 3 days later, just say, what went well? What can we do better? And that's how we always approached it. What went well? What can we do better for the next race? And that's how we start to build.
And what did we learn?
So it's an exciting prospect to get to the point where I feel like we're for sure going to participate in this, and it's going to be a fun thing. Now, when you guys started up, you did it primarily because you knew that it was something that you would enjoy doing it. Now that you've been doing it for four or so years, has that opinion about lemons changed? Is it still fun to you? What do you see as your future? Do you see just continually racing lemons and it being fun for you? And
lemons is a blast because it's like auto race, part auto racing, part carnival. There's just so much going on. There's so many funny things that are happening at the same time. The Saturday nights are awesome. They have either pig roast or like a band will come through. Weird games might be playing. People build odd cars or pit bikes and pit things. And it's a spectacle. Every weekend, and it's fun. It's fun.
It sounds to me like it's become more fun, like it was more stressful to start off with because you didn't know, and then now as you gained experience, it sounds like you're having more fun now.
I think it was always fun, honestly. Okay. I think it was only stressful for maybe our second race because things started really going bad, but things were also going bad with our lodging at the same time.
It has its moments. Every race will, but it's generically fun. And, sometimes it's funny afterwards and not necessarily during, but it's always fun. And, if I think we're going to do lemons, we're probably always going to do lemons, but, that doesn't mean we aren't going to go race somewhere else, or we aren't going to go, try ice racing, or we're not going to go try sprint racing, or we're going to try it all and just have fun. But, lemons has been the base of our team and probably will be for many years to come.
I like that. It reminds me a lot of something that I have a passion for, and I've done for almost 40 years. I've done model aviation, and it reminds the people that I've met that do lemons, remind me a lot of the people that I fly airplanes with. They have a passion. They enjoy it. They love sharing it. They want other people to enjoy it, and they want to see them succeed. And that's real attractive to me. It seems like the same kind of people. It's like, come on, we're having fun. Come have fun with us.
And that's what it's like. Like I said, if anything goes wrong with your car, first of all, you might get you got the toe of shame. But as soon as that comes back in the pit and you're working on it, you ask anybody for anything. and they will help you. They will provide it for you if they have it for you.
We had it was somebody that we didn't know. He was friends of Everyone Racers podcast. They're on the same team with Bruce. And at the point in time where it was our second race, our car came in broken. We didn't know exactly how broken. It's still broken. But Bruce just jumped in there and he was welding on our car till like 2:00 in the morning, Saturday night, just trying to get us back out. It turned out that we did fix the problem that he was fixing, but that wasn't all the problems that had happened on that car. So we got a guy who we barely know, just met us one time ever, and he's up till 2:00 in the morning welding and having to race his car, which was in the top 5 the next morning, and doesn't know us from anybody. But
we brought our car in because we had a bad tow hitch and it popped off. And they're like, "Oh, what's going on with your car?" And they're like, "Oh, the tow hitch." They said, "Come on, bring it over here." We took it over there and they just welded something back onto it. I'm like, I met this guy once. I felt so bad because they were using their stuff, because that's not common for me to accept help that way. But I mean, it was amazing. Every time something happened, people just walking over and go, "Hey, what's going on with your car?" And we had one guy when we actually went to another race. He jumped in and started helping us rebuild the engine. I didn't know him. We ended up having him like on our, race on our car once or twice, but later on. But I mean, it's amazing when you get into the community that it's not like, somebody might, take a bolt from your car and you won't know about it. They want to succeed. They want you to play. So it's great. I mean, the feeling that you get is amazing, and you'll be exhausted when you get home. The race hangover is a real thing. You'll sleep for like 2-3 days.
I've been involved in some things that while you're doing it, it gets to the point like, I'm never going to do this again. And then you make it through it and you're like, when's the next race or when's the next event? Right. But while you're doing it, like you say, you're exhausted, you're dirty, sweaty. Everything didn't go your way. And you think about the money and effort you put in, it didn't go your way. And then when you make it through, then you're like, well, when are we going to do this again? You laugh about it. Yeah. But it's like I tell my buddy Jeff, I'm like, we got the car, got it over to his place. And it's the first time I got him excited because I was going to put the burden of a race car on him. So we would have to cage it and do everything to make it a Lemons car. But now we purchased the car that's ready. And he's like, we got a race car. I said, no, we have an endurance car. This is not a race car. I mean, look at it. It's not a race car. It's a piece of junk with a roll cage.
So what are the general skill levels of the group that you're putting in? Is this first time for everyone?
We're at 0. We're starting at 0.
Okay.
Absolute 0. Although one potential partner is a hardened racer. He'll race anything. But
that's good to have one of those guys on the team.
We haven't secured him, and it's only because I haven't met the guy yet. I feel like a gatekeeper because I want a feeling that I can get along with everybody I'm dealing with, right? And you don't need 100%ers in your 1996 Volvo 850. Somebody that realizes it's an old car, and we got 2 days of racing to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Is that you have to take care of your car for your car to succeed. If there's anything going on with your car, you got to bring it in because you don't want to blow it. So what region are you going to be racing in?
Just the South. I'm really counting on they just announced the race schedule for next season. And one of the Lemons South is track to be determined. I'm really hoping it's CMP because I have a limited distance that I can travel, and I'm really counting on the CMP race. So I'm not sure how far personally I'll be able to travel with the car, but I want to see the car run, whether I can go or not. That's my mission, is to have that car run. So,
well, there's a good chance that Lucky Dog will be at CMP next year as well.
I hope so. Yeah.
So
you guys started, Vicki, you mentioned you started with like U-Haul U-Haul trailer and whatnot. Now, what do you guys have now? You probably have a tow rig and everything by now, right?
Yeah. Right now we have an enclosed trailer. We're still building onto our enclosed trailer on the interior. It's kind of a process, but and we have what we used to have a Ford. What do we have now, Bill? We have a Chevy.
Chevy 2500.
Yes. So we do that. Plus we have an open trailer at the same time, because sometimes we may take two vehicles to the track. But for the most part, we travel to track with the enclosed trailer. I think it's a 20-foot, Bill. Yeah.
20.
And we have our standard stock that we put in it, which we've simplified down. We used to bring everything, but now we've realized we don't have to bring everything. So
everything like engine hoist and welder and all that.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean,
Although
you've got tools and parts are the big ones.
right.
You have to figure out what spare parts you can afford and what spare parts you can afford to pack, and then what tools you need to bring and what tools, you kind of, each team draws a line. They say, I am willing to repair this, and this, but if this happens, the car goes on the trailer and it's done.
Yeah.
So everybody draws the line at a different spot.
It depends on how much talent you have on your team. Also, like I said, friends of ours are very, very savvy. They end up flipping an engine that evening, but they already know that they've had problems with that engine, so they probably had one already on the trailer just in case. But
I can also do
whatever
it in like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
it'll take us a long time.
You got to have your gas cans. If you're not going to get a garage, it's best to have a tent or 2 tents. Pop-up tents, yeah. And if you're going to have the pop-up tents, it's always helpful to bring empty buckets and fill them with water and anchor your tent, or put them in the spare tires so they don't fly away, because tents fly away. Let me see what else. You have to have a cart for your gas cans, so you can hold up to 2 or 3, and a tray and a fire extinguisher.
You're talking bare minimums right there. So
Yeah,
very
pretty
bare
much.
minimum.
Yeah.
Very bare minimum.
now,
And
go ahead.
oh no,
well, we've got a lot of lists broken down as like,
mhm.
I break it down in 3 ways. I break it down in E, like you don't race without this. So these are essentials. You can't race without your fire extinguisher. You can't race without, blah, 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 blah. So we've got
You need your gas cans, unless you can share them. You need the cart, you need the tray.
Right. And then we go with priority level 1, tools and parts and supplies and everything. And then priority level 2, which is kind of like, I want to have those, but maybe I don't have them all yet. And then priority level 3 is like, these would be really nice to have, but we're okay. We can probably get around it, and maybe beg, borrow, and steal at the race. So maybe that's it.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of these expenses are up front. When you got started, what were some of the unexpected expenses that you ran into?
Jewelry for Vicky.
All right. Well, that's not in my budget, but go ahead.
Well, I was just, what you have to do. We didn't have tools, so we didn't have anything. So it was unexpected. We kind of just expected to play it by ear.
I think the unexpected that we didn't really think we had were like stupid stuff like whiteboards, which would end up being like super helpful. Lights and lanterns. Like if you're going to put a tent, or if you're going to put a series of tents, you need to make sure you have your lighting. Didn't realize that, okay, with that might come a generator, unless you can find a plug-in. Those were stuff that we had to work around.
There's a bunch of the nice to haves, or kind of as you can afford it as a team.
Yeah.
Like now, you can get around without a radio. No doubt.
Yeah.
You can do it without a radio?
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
It's easier with a radio, but
yeah, but you don't have to. You can go out there with a big whiteboard or like a big signal that you have with your group and say, okay, now it's time. Usually we go out there and say, okay, we're here. We'll wave our tray to be out there, and you have a little clock in your car. Say you're going out for 45 minutes to an hour. If you're a seasoned racer, he'll probably do 2 hours. For new drivers, 2 hours is a lot. You got to kind of work up to it. You got to work your tension level up to it. You got to work your body strength up to it. But especially if it's hot. But if you have a clock that's in there, make sure you have a clock in your car. And then that way they kind of have a ballpark. And you can get away with it. You don't need radios, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, one thing you have to keep in mind, it's kind of like Vicky and I lived in Hawaii at one point, and everybody's like, oh, that's really expensive. No, it really wasn't. It was actually a little bit cheaper, but racing is the same way. You can do it cheaply, or you can spend as much as you physically can. It's just, you have to choose what you want to do. Like if you're going to live like a tourist in Hawaii, it's going to be very, very expensive. If you want to race like an IMSA racer, then it's going to be very, very expensive. You don't need a car hauler with a full truck in front of it that's got lifts and you can park 4 cars in it and have all the tools and all the gadgets. You can do it with U-Haul, rent a truck and rent a trailer. I mean, some people will drive it. We personally won't. The one thing we never skip on is safety. So we don't drive a caged car on the street because you need to have a helmet. Mm-hmm. So that's just a non-starter. So we have to have a trailer for those cars. And that's what we did.
Are you guys going to go to Atlanta for the season ender?
I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
we haven't quite gotten a yes on that yet, but we're working on maybe. I think at best it'll be one of us.
I kind of set that as an impossible goal for us just to see how close we could get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing wrong with trying. You're never going to make it unless you say you're going to. And
right.
Then you have to pay. I think they shut it 2 weeks before. So you've got till 2 weeks before. And by then you'll know if you can or can't.
If I paid and didn't attend, they would roll that over though, wouldn't they?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. We've never had one enter that we didn't get it done. So, but the deadline for payment's like 2 weeks before.
I would definitely talk to them first if you're not unable to show and see if they'll roll it though, because that might be taking a spot from somebody else. So I would talk to them.
I want to try and make it a personal goal of mine just to go. I think it might be good to go without a car.
It would be.
Oh,
it definitely would be. And we've got a few friends who are going. Race Bar's going. There's a couple other. Ben's looking to go. I'm maybe looking to go. I don't know. Depends on the face Vicky makes in the next 5 minutes.
Where I'm at, that's the close race other than CMP from Raleigh area. That's not too far. 6 hours.
Yeah, Charlotte's probably the other one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've gone through that. What I would call my introduction page of stuff was just kind of grilling you guys about how you got going. And then I have a jumble of questions here. I've got car, team, and track. So I'll try to.
Well, you need all of those. So.
Okay. So, Vicky, you were talking about the minimum to get going, and that was one of the first things I was curious about was fueling. What kind of gas cans you recommend, and just is it typical to be the fueling routine to be hot pit style, or I guess it depends on the track.
It depends on the track. If the track is live, you're not allowed for sure to put gas in your car. In the pit area. I mean, in the paddock areas, they want that done on the pit. As for gas cans, they usually come in the 5 gallons. Is that right, Bill? 5-gallon cans.
You're not allowed
race ones.
At our level, you're not allowed to use anything larger.
Right. The other thing is check with your state because New Jersey will not accept clear or anything but red. So that creates a problem for us because occasionally we've actually had to bribe them in order to get them filled. So
there's rumors that never happened.
Yeah, that's right.
That's an excellent point, Vicki, because I was talking with Vincent, and he was racing in New Jersey, and he made that same point. It was like you had to, quote, know somebody to get your, quote, illegal tanks filled.
Yeah. And now we have a set of reds just for Jersey. The other thing is you need a rolling cart. That's your bare minimum. And you can actually online get for starters. I mean, we kind of have a cart that is, what is it, like a yard cart that you would find at like the garden centers. We have one of those now, but we started out with one of those collapsible ones because we did not have an open trailer. So it stacks
fabric.
Yeah, it's fabric. It collapses. That's not bad. It holds about 2 cans. And you'll need a tray. You can also purchase, say, for instance, like an open oil container that you put underneath the car, change your oil. That kind of works too. They just want something to catch any gas that falls out, and a small fire extinguisher for your hot pit. And that's your bare minimum.
So you've got 2 different kinds of gas cans. You've got yes, I have a gas can and it's 5 gallons, but it's slow. And then you've got the fully hot rodded Hunsacker, which will dump a full 5 gallon plus a little bit in like 10 seconds. So you've got 2 extremes. They're expensive. Yeah, exactly.
Cannon. I heard something about they don't like you to modify a can. So if
they don't want you to modify a can, but the vent can be through the use of some plumbing. You can have it so that your vent, when the can's fully upside down, is still positive, like it's got a little snorkel on it, so that it'll pour like glug 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 and just be empty. As it's kind of like a good beer chugger, you just turn it over and out it comes. Or you get the other ones that'll go glug 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 glug, and they take a while. But if your first couple of races,
it's not going to matter because at that point you're just really focusing on track time. And honestly, for some of I would honestly look out for teams that are just kind of are done, and I would see if for inexpensive ways to get your team started. I would see if anybody's just getting rid of stuff from a team that are just kind of closing down. That's something to look at also. When you could probably find like gas cans for that, or any kind of trays, or cabinets or tools or whatever. There's always that option too. Because I mean, if you're starting out with a budget, hey, I'm a budget girl. I know how to do budget. So
a race car doesn't fit anybody's budget. That's the dumbest thing you can do is buy a race car. So
no, the dumbest thing you could do is let your significant other, CFO of the family, know exactly how much you spent on the race car. That would
be stupid.
Because she still doesn't have an idea, which is awesome.
Is there a minimum capacity fire extinguisher for that fireman job? Or in other words, can you bring out something that's so small they'll say that's not enough?
You could. It's not.
Like
I don't think it's specified. Yeah.
For the hot pit area, you can just kind of get a small standard. But in the cars, you'll need a regular one that's designed for the cars.
Okay.
Yeah, that's different. I'd say the ones that we take out to the pit lane are probably on the order of a gallon-ish, 4 liters, somewhere in that range. And it's got to be a ABC fire extinguisher. And then the fire suppression system is a whole separate deal inside the car.
But if they already have a car, they may have fire suppression already in it.
Maybe.
Yeah, the car's fire suppression harness, seat, roll cage, it's ready.
Okay.
It's ready.
Now the fire suppression will run out.
We got super lucky on that.
Yeah, the fire suppression will need to be recharged every 2 years.
Right.
So make sure your dates are okay. Make sure your seatbelt dates are okay too.
Yeah, I went through all that with Roger, and everything's good for at least a year, and a couple things are good for 2 years.
Great.
That's good. To give you time to start collecting slowly.
Right. Now, these questions are going to be all over the place. Do you guys do any video in car or?
Successfully, or do we try to do it?
we really try.
I've been really fortunate, and you guys, I really appreciate this, and it just goes back to people being helpful. I feel like I've got friends that I haven't met yet, and this is great. But it's like I was watching Matthews, the Centenarians, the Buick guys.
Mm-hmm.
They had their in-car stuff, which was nice to watch, and then it had the template, the track overlay, and miles per hour, and all that. It was really nice when it worked. When it worked, it was nice.
Exactly. So
And
the
then,
biggest problem you have with video is turning it on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And keeping it running.
So you know what the thing is that there's so many things that are going on for us. You know, there's so many things that are going on in the garage to get that car in line on the grid, that by the time we wheel around to kind of get the video, we can't get around to getting the video done. Because we're either wiring in radios or, last minute things that have to go.
We don't have a lot of morning people on our team.
So the other thing, though, is that you can do, is that Bill had picked up on, is that he runs with his phone, right? I mean, you can run with a phone.
It depends on what you're trying to do and how fancy you're trying to be. There's solutions that turn on when the car turns on and start recording as soon as the car moves. Fantastic. $1,500. Not going to happen for our team.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Then you could use your phone or your GoPro, but you got to turn them on and keep them on, and they have to run off the battery. And if they're running off the car, then they turn off when you turn the kill switch off, and then you got to remember to turn it back on. Or you can have it plugged into a battery, like a little cell phone charging battery or something like that. No matter what we've done, we haven't found one we really, really, really like yet, but we're trying to work it out. The whole thing with turning the car off to fill the fuel every, let's say, 2 hours really complicates things. So if somebody's got a really nice solution, hey, we'll take it too. It's not just for Tim here. But we've got some ideas on how to do it, and sometimes we do it. But again, if you don't have a team that wakes up early and gets rolling, which we don't, you got to prioritize what you have to do to run the car safely. And getting video is not one of those things. It's on the nice to do list. So sometimes we don't get there. I
was just going to say that doesn't make your E list your essential list at all. So
no, exactly. It's really fun and it's really great. But even if you do manage to do it, sometimes Vicky remembers to turn it on, and then Bill says, "Oh, I got to go turn it on," and then I turned it off instead of on. Not that we've done that before, but I've heard rumors.
Yeah, I was talking to Andrew when they were running the race down in Sebring, and he had forgotten to turn the camera on, and he said that he was able to turn it on, I guess by his phone as it came by. He got lucky.
Yeah,
was able to turn it on remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Seems like one thing you're going to have to count on working on every race is brake pads, brake fluid.
Yep.
Are you running anything special on your brakes, high temperature stuff or high temperature fluid or?
Absolutely.
Yep. You're going to be endurance racing. So those are tires, and brakes are probably the most important thing that you can do for your car. And you really won't succeed unless you really kind of have those. Bill can tell you which ones we do.
So your brakes are expensive, right? Well, they don't have to be expensive. You can use, your normal part store brakes and probably get 4, 5, 6, maybe even 8 hours out of it. But they'll go away and they won't stop as well. We prefer, and we were told this by friends of ours at the Everyone Racers podcast and the Three Pedal Mafia, that try these ST43 brake pads. They're a little expensive. They're from Raybestos. We order them from Porterfields. They have a really good bite. They last forever, and they are thicker and we get several races, not several days, not several hours. We get several races out of a pair. So if you look at it, you spend a little bit more ahead on the first purchase. Let's say it's a nominally $150, $200 brake pads, but they'll last you 3-4 races. So they end up being about the same, and you've got better performance. So I'd like those all day long.
So now back to tires. When we bought this Volvo, we were lucky he replaced all 8 rims. Now
Nice.
you're going to probably go through more tires than that. So is there normally tire mounting available at the tracks?
So depending on the tire that you want, you've got a balance of speed, grip, and longevity. And usually you can't get all 3. Like you can't have a really grippy tire that goes really fast and lasts really long. So you kind of you have to choose what's better for you. There's like 3 or 4 different brands that everybody seems to run. Falcon Zenith is one of them. There's 2 that they're running now. There used to be a third. It's got discontinued. Let's see, what's the other? Teresa's.
Hankook.
Teresa's the other one. We tend to go with the Hankook RS4. It's not quite as fast, but you'll get several races, not several race days, not several race hours, but you'll get several races out of a set. And it may not be as fast. It's probably slower, could be a second a lap slower. But when you're looking to improve and looking to just get lap time and keep your costs down, I don't care. I'm not going to lose a race at the level that we're at because our lap times are a second slower than they should be or could be. So
on your S10, you normally use up 2 sets a weekend then, or
no? We use up, unless somebody flat spots a tire, which has happened. We will get 2 races, like 2 weekends out of 1 set of tires.
Wow, that's impressive. But you probably carry an extra set anyway.
We do. We carry 1 set on the truck, 1 set spare, and 1 set of rain tire spare. But
Okay.
I'm ridiculous. So most people don't.
So when it comes to driving, and speaking of tires, especially with new drivers, is that you have to be careful about flat spotting, which means that they have slammed on the brakes way too hard, have locked all 4 tires, and therefore have skidded to the point when there is now a flat spot on it. So you're driving around and you're just thumping as you're driving around. So that is something that, let your team know that when they're starting out, work with the brakes, understand how the brakes are working. We're not going to go 10 for 10, or excuse me, we're not going to go full out on the track the first time out until you start understanding how to use your brakes, because you'll ruin a whole set of tires if you're on a budget.
It's really important if your car does not have ABS.
Yeah.
Especially.
So double check on that.
All right, on your fluids, so you run any additives on your oil?
No.
Just run straight.
No.
Rotel
we
or
use
something in it?
yeah, we use Shell Rotella T5.
Okay.
T5 or T6? The blue one might be 6.
What? Okay.
I think it's 6, but yeah.
T6, yeah.
Now, are you putting coolant in your car when it's not at the track, so you don't have to worry about it freezing, because you're in Pennsylvania? So.
We put coolant in the wintertime. We tend to leave it just water during race season, but
Right.
The problem with just leaving it water is you don't have the corrosion inhibitors of antifreeze. So some teams will do the switch every time.
All right. What is what gauges do you run? What's the minimum gauges that you would recommend having in your car? Oil pressure, temperature,
well,
what?
In priority, I would go tachometer.
Okay.
I might even say a tack light would be second, but it's high. And then if you start getting into oil temperature, oil pressure, and water temperature would be the ones. And then the last one probably would be water pressure, but that's relatively rare.
since you already have a pre-built car, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. But if
Depends
you
what's
can
on
add
it
it,
already.
yeah. But if it doesn't have a tachometer, I think I would just leave it with just a tachometer. It should have everything else in there that it needs if it's already been built.
I have not personally been in that car. It's an automatic, so I'm not sure if it has a tach in it.
Well, I mean, that's a great winter project to get rid of that automatic. Just saying.
Nah. It's okay. Glenn, our friend Glenn runs a truck with an automatic.
Yes.
Well, all my racing friends say they would never race an automatic. Now, Roger, I don't know if you know Roger McDaniels. He's a heck of a character. Really nice guy at Duff Beer.
Mhm.
And he's like, he's never really had a problem with his automatic transmission. He did say when they got the car, he had it rebuilt. Right now,
Mhm.
the most suspect thing on the car is the engine. And he says it only really smokes bad when you're really getting on it. So he says when we were in cruise mode, he said it did fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just check what color the smoke is, though. That would be a pretty good idea. And then go from there.
Now, I'm not sure if we have a heater core in the car. It's my serious racer buddy from Vincent from Super Westerfield Brothers. They're always running up front, and he finished second with Lee Ho Fuchs.
Oh, okay, that's a good team.
Angier.
Yep.
What's that?
That's a good team.
Yeah, and he says he would always have a heater core in his car just for the fact that, if it rains or whatever, your window gets fogged up. He says it's silly not to have it because you're not saving anything on weight, really.
Yep.
So now in the S10, have you got defog capability? And
so we have, well, that's kind of a bad question. We have, we bought the car already purchased and built. The team prior had taken it out, but I think we agree with them now that we shouldn't have taken it out. So what we've done is we have a bilge pump in there for a fan. No, like a fan from like a boat, I believe it is. And then if it looks like it's going to be a potential for any kind of foggy atmosphere, we coat the inside of the windshield with shaving cream. Now that the big key is with the shaving cream, you have to wipe it off. Otherwise you just have this big white windshield. So, just.
Oh, that's a nice tip there, Bill. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I was wondering because that was in my list of questions because it's like Vincent went out with Lee Ho Fuchs. They come back in after one lap because they couldn't see. And that could have been the difference in them winning the race.
It definitely could be. Up at the front, it's very little makes a big difference.
So he was not happy about that. But he's what J&Os call a squinty-eyed racer, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to do anything but be the fastest out there, and that's fine. That's fine.
Maybe.
All right, let's see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I just have parts question mark.
Oh,
I guess that depends.
We didn't cover brake fluid though.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So .4 is probably what you want. The higher the boiling point, the better, dry and wet. You can spend a lot of money and get a lot more temperature capability, or you can spend a medium amount of money and get decent capability. It depends on how hard you drive the car and how rough you are on the brakes as to what you really need. You always want to have a little bit extra because boiling brake fluid is a bad thing. But you'll figure that out with time. We tend to like it with the boiling point above 600 degrees at least, if we can. In emergency, you just use whatever you got, .4. But if you got a choice, 600 degrees or higher, I think one of the ones we use is like 660 and the other one's like 600 or 620.
Okay. Now this is going to be kind of an impossible question to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. I just have parts question mark. Now sure. I know that is going to depend on what you're driving or whatever, but what's an example of parts that you think are almost essential to have?
Anything that's relatively cheap and quick, but will stop your car from running you're dumb if you don't bring it. extra set of brake pads, spark plugs, spark plug wires. If you've got relays, if you've got fuses, if you've got oil filter.
Now, belts would be something that would be easy to forget
Belts,
too.
belts would be good to have.
Yeah, we bring an extra fire suppression tank just in case somebody hits the trigger by mistake.
You know, the other thing too is that whatever you're you can probably have your runner go out to AutoZone or something and grab it.
Depends on the car.
Depends on the car.
That's excellent. You brought up fire suppression, because that was a question I had, was like, if for some reason you had a accidental discharge, or you had to use your fire suppression, how would you go about getting it recharged?
You can't.
Can't.
Nope.
So you're just saying bring an extra bottle to hook it up.
I do. That's ridiculous, but I do it.
Okay.
It's past the. It's probably even past the nice to do thing, but I want to. We did a lot of work. We spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of time. I want to do as much as I can to make sure the team gets out there and has a good time. So that's that. Yeah. Some of the teams, what I would do is I would talk to Duff Beer, who sold you the car, and say, hey, what did you guys used to go through? They might even have a list. And they'll tell you what wears out and what's a consumable, and then start fresh to keep their list, use it. But if something new breaks, then you've got to think about, well, do I want to have a spare one of those? You know, and depending on the car, like we have a BMW E36 we have an E46 now. You can't get any parts at a local auto parts store for that car. So if we don't bring it, we're done. So we bring a lot for that car. Whereas the Chevy S10, any local auto parts store has almost everything we could ever need. So we don't have to bring things. And then you just got to make a decision on what you want to bring. Like, do you want to bring a hub and an axle and wheel studs, or do you want to bring that as an assembly? So that if something goes wrong, you just take it out and put it back in, because you don't have a press most likely with you. Yeah. So you got to think about it and think about where you want to draw the line and what you want to do. There's certain things we just don't know how to do. So we don't bring those parts. We're done. It's over. But there's other things we do know how to do. We'll bring those.
Now, I don't know. It seems like the seat in our car is fixed. And you guys, seems like you probably have a decent difference in the size of your drivers. Do you have an adjustable seat in your car?
We do. And that's a big deal. You want everybody to be able to drive as comfortably as possible in the best position as possible. So a fixed seat is better. It's probably safer as long as it's fixed securely. But as opposed to having our 6'3" teammate drive in the same position as Vicky, who's 5'7", that's probably less safe than having a seat on sliders. So you want to make sure the slider has dual rail locks. And I believe, I always forget what Jeep it is. It's a Jeep FJ or TJ slider. Mm. It looks just like the Sparco slider, but it's like $30. You can get those 30, maybe 40, and you can get those used, and they're the same. That's a really nice slider. If not, get something.
That's probably because it was intended for off-road use. It's sturdier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can get you the exact Jeep model if you need it. I'll put it in the the episode notes too, because it's just one of those things my brain does not keep straight because I don't like Jeeps.
All right. What about your interior rear view mirror? Do you have anything special?
We do. We have a super secret trick that we tell everybody.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So there's the regular standard rear view mirror, which isn't really sufficient for racing. So you want a wider field of vision. Now, we tried a car that has what's called a wink mirror, and it's a series of like 4 or 5 different mirrors at a different angle. And it goes all the way across the entire front of the windshield. It worked great, but it drove me crazy because you've got different at the edges between the 2 mirrors, you've got weird blind spots or overlaps. So what we do is we get, I think it's an 18-inch convex mirror from Longacre. And the trick that we do that a lot of teams are starting to do, and I'm not saying we started this, but I didn't know anybody who did it before us and whatever. Instead of mounting it in a mirror, middle of the car, mount it to the right, like it's in front of the passenger seat, because then it actually peeks around behind your helmet as opposed to having your helmet in the mirror. And you can see almost the entire rear view mirror plus the sides just with that one mirror.
Okay.
But you want it within reach of the driver. So,
and that may already be in his car.
Maybe.
Yeah, I haven't looked.
Yeah.
But
When you get a chance and somebody has it, you should have them take a picture of the interior, your control panel, lots of pictures so you know what you have.
Right. I just remember when I first met Matthew down there at his place, he made a point of showing me his aftermarket interior mirror, and it made a lot of sense when he was explaining it to me.
Sure. It's when we say this is what you should do, and this goes for every team and every person you talk to, just because we say it's what you should do, what we really say is this is what we like.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys may not like it, which is fine. Well, you can be wrong, but
shit. That's Bill.
Yeah, don't edit that out. Keep that. No, that's great. This is all good stuff. I appreciate it. It just goes back to the fact that the people I've met and got to talk to in person, I've got a really good mix. I got Vincent, who's always out front going for the win, and he likes to text and send pictures during the race, which is amazing to me. Then I got Roger, who's done just about everything you can do in Lemons, from rally and concourse and the whole thing, including their electric car, which I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's crazy. Mm-hmm. That Jet Electrica they do.
I've heard about it. I have not seen it in person yet.
Oh, stuff. But anyway, and then the rookie team, Matthew's team is they're a lot of fun. So of the people that I've met, I feel like I have a really nice, wide, diverse group of opinions and information, including you guys. Because from the very first time, still there?
Yep.
Okay, I blacked my phone out for some reason, but okay, it doesn't matter. So anyway, from the very first, everybody's been super helpful, and like I said, it makes me feel like I've been doing Lemons the whole time. So let's see. Now, I was wondering, do you think it would be an advantage to have like supplemental brake lights other than your stock brake lights, like something up high? Or
I think it only matters if you're racing at night.
Okay.
And it depends on the division.
So you've got, this falls under E, right? If you have one working brake light, you can race.
Okay.
If you have zero, you can't race. So
are you guys running any kind of extra light packages on your vehicle at all? Or
we do. We've got a rain light because we don't want anybody not seeing us, because we drove at one race in Road Atlanta and it was a rainy, misty day. And sometimes it was a little scary coming down the straightaway on Road Atlanta, going into the mist and saying, well, I hope there's no cars there because I can't see. So we got a rain light. It's required in some of the levels that we race in. And we like them. We do have a third brake light just in case, because the two in the back of the car tend to be where people could have contact. And the third one tends to be a little more inboard, so it's less likely to get contact. So let's say somebody bumps you in the rear and they take out your brake lights. Well, you're done until you fix them. But if you had a third brake light, you're still going.
Is it mandatory? No.
It's not mandatory, but it falls under that E. Like if I don't have brake lights, I don't race.
Yeah. We should go ahead and share that list with him. That would probably be very helpful.
You know, it'd be even better if it's already on our website.
It's already on our website.
Okay.
So I'll put a link to the list so nobody has to go looking for it, because the website makes sense in my mind, but it'll be on the episode notes if you guys want it. And if you think of something that we don't have, let us know. If you think of something that we have that's wrong, let us know. If you think it's a stupid list, you can let us know that too.
Okay. Now, even though I know this is a Lemons qualifying car, it should go through safety and BS and everything fine. I still feel like I need to go through the whole thing and be educated on it. Now, when you this has already got tow provisions on it and they're marked, but when you go to set up your tow, I imagine you're just putting it integral to the frame somewhere.
So some tracks will, it's weird. Some tracks want a hard metal toe mount. Some tracks want the soft fabric toe mount, and some tracks will outlaw fabric toe mounts. And some tracks, we've been to one that said they didn't want the metal ones. So I don't know that you can do this for everybody, but you definitely want it to be secure. You definitely want it to be something where if the tow vehicle comes and hooks up to it, it won't rip off or tear off or break, because that makes them cranky, and then their towing comes a little more rigorous of your car and tends to mean you have to fix more things, and you're already going to have to fix something since you're getting towed. So we don't want to add to that. But as far as I can tell, the metal ones seem to be nearly universal, and the fabric ones, except for a track or two that we know of, have been accepted as well. I don't think anybody really cares, but again, you got to make sure it's not going to tear off or break.
Now, have you had an instance when you showed up with a toe spot that they said you need to modify?
There's one track that told us we needed to change from our soft fabric toe mount to a hard metal one.
Okay.
It's not near you though, so you're fine.
Now back to tools for a little bit. I imagine you carry a couple of jacks, and then you have to have jack stands. I hear you can get in a big problem if they catch you without jack stands. They're not happy about that.
Well, not only can you get into a problem without jack stands, but you need to have a bottom on your jack stand so that your jack stand doesn't tear up the asphalt, because that makes them very cranky. And if you're in mud or grass, so bring some extra wood.
Yeah, that's not difficult to do. I mean, if you happen to have free time, which you won't, but in the winter, that just if you have them, great. If you can get it from Harbor Freight, they're not awfully expensive, but go ahead and cut the platform out and go ahead and get what is it, that
plumber strap, and
just tack them right on, just right there, and then you'll have
them together and they'll hold on to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find drive up ramps are useful?
Well, it depends on how low your car is on the front.
Work on.
Right.
Oh.
I wouldn't work on it with a ramp. It doesn't get it high enough for me to be excited about it. So we use either jack stands, or we have the easy jacks, quick jacks, where they're you plug them in and they're hydraulic, and they'll raise the car about 1.5 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm. And occasionally we've used stacked wood.
Not at a race.
No, not at a race.
So back to the radio, you say a radio is nice, but it's not essential. Mm-hmm. Now, you probably went through a couple different radios before you settled on one.
We did.
That's a assumption, but I feel like I've heard that from different people.
Yeah, we did.
So what did you end up settling on, and what were some of the problems that you incurred before you settled on it?
So some of the tracks that you'll go to, especially down by you, Road Atlanta, that's a tricky track. It's got a lot of elevation, and it's got a lot of distance where you're trying to broadcast to. So you're going to run into dark spots on the track, and that's kind of annoying. Or you don't have clear communication, like you'll hear crackles as opposed to a voice. So that was our two big frustrations with our initial radios. And it turned out that it was a couple of different things. Our radio was fine, but our installation, we did some things wrong. And then we decided to go with a digital radio system, which is almost the same price. Actually, it's a digital analog, which is almost the same price. And then we just changed the way our antenna was mounted, and everything was fine. What I would say is, instead of me giving you like a 2 or 3 minute answer for your radios, if you listen to the Sean Sampson episode, I think it's in the 230s, maybe somewhere around there, from Sampson Racing Communication. He goes through just about everything we could think of. And after working with him and doing what he said, we haven't had any radio issues.
So I'm assuming that you have your helmets wired then.
We do.
So then there's just a jack in the car that you plug into?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mount the antenna, and then the antenna plugs into the radio, and then the radio splits and goes to the helmet, and then you plug your helmet in.
So what can I expect to spend on a decent radio system?
It depends on how many handsets you want. So what we did was, the handsets were like $140, maybe $150 just from Amazon. So multiply that by how many you want. And then the antenna was, don't remember. I want to say it was around 100. I think it was south of 100, maybe 80, kind of a guess. Then you have your push to talk button, which I don't remember how much that was. And then however many helmets you need to put the earpieces in. Those are a little pricey too. Figure they're about the cost of a headset or a handset.
It comes as a set. But you could also, I mean, for the sake of saving money, if you want to, you can go ahead and see if anybody's selling sets also. I'm all, just throwing that out there also.
Yeah, we sold ours to a Formula SA18.
We've sold our other ones. Yeah, we did. I mean, as for like a starter, but they come as a kit. And there's like 4 or 5 sections to it to fit it in the car, plus the extra radio that you're going to wire into the car. And then of course, what you don't necessarily have to have a headset for it, but headsets are nice for the one that's actually communicating to the car. It's nice, but not necessary.
Yeah, because you're going to be, especially for you, that's going to be kind of a you thing, because you're not planning on driving, and you're going to probably want to have the headset on, or at least access to the radio the whole time. It wouldn't be a bad thing for you to have one.
Yeah, but I mean, at minimum, just 2. You need 2 radios. You don't need more than that.
Now I'm wondering, did you have to develop some kind of etiquette to talk to your driver? Like, it would seem like there would be cases when you would be trying to call them up and you'd be bothering them, or?
Yeah.
Keep it short and sweet.
And wait, like push the button and then talk. Don't push the button and talk. Give it like a second. I was
wondering if you would do something like brake for the driver, whatever, brake Jeff, or
no,
just keying the mic is enough to let them know it.
Yeah, they'll hear it coming,
and then let them respond in their own time.
I mean, what we've done as far as etiquette is, we know each driver, and some drivers like to be talked to, and some drivers like to be talked to, and some people don't want it to be talked to. And then we also try and time it so that they're not in the middle of doing something. Like if they're in the middle of a pack of 6 cars and they're going through a section with 3 turns back to back to back to back, it's not the time. But if they're on the front straightaway and they're just going straight and there's nobody around them, great time to give them a talk to. So, try to be cognizant that the driver could be occupied. And I personally don't like to hear a lot of, great job. Tell me if I'm being black flagged. Tell me if there's something I need to go do. Tell me if the car is not working. Otherwise, I'll see you when I'm done, But, we've got another driver who's like, talk to me the entire time. It's like you're a morning DJ and you talk to her the entire time. Okay, we do what you got to do. It's really at the driver's preference.
Okay.
You see, when Bill's on the radio and I'm driving, I've been married to him for like 20 plus years, 22 years now. I'm okay.
She doesn't like to hear it.
I'm okay.
The only thing I've been able to do on the radio with Vicky is if I tell her there's a truck catching her, or if there's a truck just ahead of her that she could go past, then she's all happy about that. But otherwise, I don't talk to her at all.
I'm good.
All right, that's one section of questions that I had. So I'm going to go into another section.
No
Are
worries.
we on a time limit or anything here, Bill?
Well,
No, we can make a two-parter.
I've got lots of tape in this recorder, so we should be good.
All right. That was all under car, and this is under team.
Okay.
Let me see here. And these are all overlapping stuff. It's all the same thing.
So the most important thing is at your team meeting before each racing day, just tell everybody, listen, if we wanted to win this race, we would have brought a different car and different drivers. So just go out there and have a good time.
Yeah. Well, my goals are pretty simple. I already feel like I've accomplished something that now I know we have a Lemons car.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. But in my mind, the next goals are fairly simple and attainable. That is to get the car entered and pass tech. Then the next thing would be to run on the track. And then the final thing would be to run for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So
yeah, just finishing is an
did all those
accomplishment.
things, and I know that I probably won't accomplish all those in one race. But those are the simple goals I have. And I tell Jeff, I said, the most important thing for you to pass is the start finish line. Don't worry about passing cars. Just pass that start finish line a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm. So I do have to point out one more thing that we're not quite there, or maybe you have not brought up yet, is your general paddock itself. So you're going to have to feed your team. What we have found that works really, really well is a cooler of obviously your beverages, actually a 5-gallon cooler of water. And like those just thermos cups. Everybody has a thermos cups they carry around, or whatever you guys are drinking. And crock pot meals. So if you have time to cook yourself up some like of your favorite chili or something like that and throw it in the freezer, bring it in a cooler, throw it in a crock pot. Because sometimes meals are kind of hard to find if you don't have them at the track, and you're not going to have a lot of time to do much of anything else. And that's what I would recommend doing. You can do that for breakfast. You can, for breakfast, just bring your bagels and just make 2 dinner meals. Sometimes Saturday night dinner's provided, but not necessarily. Or Saturday night, you guys can go out to like a local pub or bar, or, go get your meals. But lunch it's going to be really hard for you to find meals at your lunchtime hour and to get everybody fed. That was one thing that was taught to us. It was passed down from another group, and it's been a game changer at the track for us. And a lot of people do it.
Those are excellent points, Vicki. The thing I was thinking about when I was looking through all the information I could find, and something that Jay and Nick talked about in getting started, was everybody needs to drink a gallon of water a day at least.
Mm-hmm.
Have everybody have a gallon of water. Make sure that simple things, and like what you're saying, makes a lot of sense, because you get out there and get involved and get busy. You don't think about personal needs that much. Right?
And just to wake up and throw it, like all the ice is already in the container, bring a couple of gallons of fresh water. You might, when somebody's going out and go to a gas run, pick up another bag of ice, and we'll throw it in the cooler, and just have a separate small table on the side inside your paddock, to where you have your water cooler and you have a place where you can plug in your crock pot, and just forget about it. Bring a couple bag things to munch on, and a couple bowls or stuff to eat out of. I mean, it's the fast, make up some meatballs. When we're here, we throw in like a pulled pork, works well into a crock pot. You can get some bag salads or whatever that are already pre-made. Throw that out there. Throw some fruits and vegetables and nuts are great to snack off in between. And for breakfast, I mean, if you guys are staying in hotels, you can just stop off and grab something in the morning from like McDonald's or something. But, there's also like morning crock pot meals you can throw into. We have a couple people that have some pretty great recipes of, it's almost like shepherd's pie, but it's made with eggs and hash browns and stuff like that. You throw that in the morning, or throw that in the night before, and it cooks for the morning on like really low. So if you do those things, you will be able to sustain your team, because if they are not hydrated and have the proper nutrients, then it's going to fall apart. You're going to get a lot of cranky people. They're going to be hangry.
Yeah, Snickers bar is not going to do it.
No, it's not. And there's a couple people that are just like Saturday nights usually might have a meal, you might have to bring something. But or if you got, like I said, after the races, if you guys are staying in local hotels and you guys decide to go out afterwards. But a lot of stuff happens. Friday nights, things are mostly prepping, but some stuff happens, a couple of beers. Saturday night, a lot of stuff happens Saturday night. So you really don't want to leave the track on Saturday night, unless you really have to. So
What's that? It's been a lot different over COVID time. So has
yeah, it has, but it's really tapering down. It's not as rigid as it was because it's all outdoors. And I would say probably 75% of the people are vaccinated, and of course, the people that are in your paddock. So you go as safe as you feel like you want to be. And if you want a mask, nobody's going to poke fun at you or anything like that. I mean, it's everybody's there to race and have a good time, but it's not as strict as it was. It doesn't have to be now. And if it is an issue, they'll notify you that it's an issue. And if it's too bad of an issue, they won't even have the race. But I don't foresee that really happening right now.
Okay. Now, on the first section of questions was under car. This is under team, and goes back to team captain and responsibilities and stuff. And I would be interested to know about how you guys came up with your theme, costumes, paint scheme, and all that. Was it by committee? Was it who was the genius behind it?
Bill and I are huge fans of superheroes. Huge fans of superheroes. We're there like Thursday night at the big theater with the surround sound and the fun glasses for superhero movies. And we were sitting around rolling around names, and we decided, hey, well, there's at that point, I think Guitar Heroes. What about Garage Heroes? And Bill's like, in training, because we will always be a train. I'm like, oh, that kind of wins. And then it just kind of grew from there. So we knew that was the name that we liked. So Bill went out and developed the logo for it. And that's actually our original logo. It might have been tweaked, but I think that's the original. And then our thing has always been Marvel. So we've always just done, and the thing is I was really kind of stuck a little bit in Marvel. So we've been doing like a lot of Marvel costumes and things like that. But, we really kind of need to shake it up. And we're kind of like, well, how about other heroes? It doesn't have to be just Marvel superheroes. It could be, Airbender, or it could be anything. So we're thinking about branching out on some other stuff and some other themes, but, everybody kind of themes. I wouldn't say everybody, but they don't take their cars very seriously. How about that? So they have fun with it, and you just kind of go in. So it's just it's always good that when you're either Zooming with a couple beers or if you're out at the pub with your friends, you're just kind of hashing stuff. And that's where our friends get their themes every year, because they change if every year, if not every other year. They put something out, and they get together like February or so, and then they all as a group come up with a funny theme, and then they'll just go attack the car with it, and then they'll go ahead and collect all their stuff.
So I was watching the wrap up the other day. Who was Thanos? Was that you, Bill?
Yeah, sometimes.
was that fairly recent, or has Thanos?
That was our last one.
Because you only get to see snippets, and I love it when I see people that I feel like I know or talk to. And I got to see that when you guys were getting ready to go through tech, I believe, right?
Yeah, we put in an all-girls team.
Yeah, and then Thanos was there to boss you around. So
we actually had Loki driving the car too. There was a little Loki.
No, that was great.
Trust me, that was an all-ladies team. I was not bossing anybody around at all.
No.
Okay, all right.
Pretty good.
So I want to hear what some of the bribes you guys probably don't need many bribes, but you're playing the game, so I'm assuming that you're bribe game is pretty strong too.
Now, you play to your audience sometimes.
Okay.
Food is good. I know that some of them like bourbon, but if it's alcohol, they'll share it with any party on Saturday night. But alcohol is always given. So if there's anything interesting at Harbor Freight, that's always good. But honestly, we've actually given away penalty ideas. Like I think one year we brought a plastic bowling kit that for kids, and they actually incorporated it as one of the penalties. They had to go and knock the pins down. So they're always kind of fun idea. I think one year we brought an art kit, so people were painting on the cars. So we brought one of those. I think we did.
Yep, we did.
Yeah. So sometimes we bring games that could potentially be used. I think I remember that one car was an Italian delivery car of some sort, and they brought hoagies and they gave them out to the judges, and they just had lunch. So there's stuff like that. I remember for a while we were bringing cookies and bourbon. We did that for like 2 years.
If you're going to do it, you're going to play hard, theme hard, bribe hard. So,
right.
It's either try to tailor it towards your theme or your team, or try to tailor it towards the judges.
It doesn't really matter. It's actually the thought behind it that,
right.
It doesn't really matter.
Well, I actually did send with Matthew a couple bribes, which were potential penalties to Sebring. One of them was an old, really neat 1960s old classic slot car thing that had some old 64 Cadillac and Thunderbird. Stingray, Thunderbird. Had classic bodies, and it was that AA powered cars on this track. It was called the Alcan Torture Track. Mm-hmm. And I had instructions for it to be used as a penalty. And when Matthew gave it to Eric loved it. And I was hoping to see it on wrap up on Instagram or something. Then the other thing I did was I went to Play It Again Sports, and I asked him, I said, do you have any metal shafted clubs? He says, we have some junk in the back that we can't sell. I said, that's exactly what I needed. So I need junk. You can't sell. I got, because nowadays there's no such thing as metal shafted clubs, right? They're all like,
graphite.
They're not metal. You can't bend them. So I bent them up, painted them, and drilled a hole in the handle. And Matthew forgot to give them to him. But I said, I painted up with real loud colors, drilled a hole in the handle, and made a provision so they could call it the Bad Drivers Club, and then have them bolt it to the car so it swung around, made noise banging on the car. Mm-hmm. But that didn't get used. But I could see having a lot of fun doing that stuff. And I think. Go ahead.
I think one of the most clever ones that I see somebody give was a beautiful set of 10 millimeter sockets. They just got a box.
Oh, I saw that.
They just put
a whole set with 10 millimeters. I thought that was great.
And that was brilliant.
Yeah, because you can never find it, right? And the other one was the Luke video, which was pretty good. I like that one.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
But
if you find a 928 transaxle, I know a certain judge who would be very happy to put you in C for a 928 transaxle. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
Yeah, I've seen that guys prowl the forum to find out what judges need, and then fulfill their needs. All right, yep. So I was talking to Roger about before I got his Volvo. Was talking about BS inspections, and I at the time I had an '83 Camaro, I still have it. That was a $0 car, so I felt like it had gave me a lot of leeway as what I could do with it. And Roger says you never want to go to the judges and tell them that you have a $0 car. That's not what you do. Even if it's true, he says, even if it's true, you don't do that. They don't like that. Mm-hmm. I guess that could.
$0 car could mean anything. You know, it could mean somebody left you a Corvette. That's a $0 car. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like it's going to be a problem to document this car. We got it for $2,000, which is less than the price of having a roll cage put in.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it should be a problem, even though it won Class C last time out. That was with very experienced, good drivers. With us, it's going to be a boat anchor. You know, we'll be lucky to finish the race. So
You will still have a great time.
I am anticipating it. I'm really looking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time just talking.
Yeah, it's easy.
Making friends. So this goes under team. Also, I'm like Lemon's attitude. You know, having the Lemon's attitude, like Vicky, you keep going back to. You're not going to win. Don't go out there thinking you're going to win. And with any
Go out and have fun.
Right. So I think I always like it when they talk about here's the winners, but who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like winning is discouraged. When I try to explain this to people that don't know, they find it puzzling. I'm like, it's supposed to be puzzling, right?
You've got 100 plus cars, and you've got 3 levels. So how many people win?
Well, I already told you what for me a win would be. Number one, get to the track with the car. But if our car takes the checker on Sunday, that is a big win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first one you got is that your car starts and runs the first lap, so that's awesome.
Right.
And then you've got everybody on a team gets in the car and drives. Awesome. And then finishing Saturday, and then finishing Sunday, and then that's 4 or 5 wins right there.
Well, yeah, and then beyond that, there's a whole lot more to this. Just like your passion for it, and you doing your podcast, and trying to get information out there and helping people like me, and enjoying the stories. And the stories are great.
Mm-hmm.
The stories are great, and they're just all over the place. And I enjoy writing. Now I've got a website that I haven't cranked up yet, but it's going to be full of Lemon stories. I'm going to be covering what my team's doing, what Vincent's team's doing, and he also drives for SOB, Leho Fuchs, and then his team is Super Westerfield Brothers, and then there's always good stuff going on with Duff, because if he's not racing the Lemons race, he's doing the Lemons Concourse or the Lemons Rally, or he's doing track days. And then I met a neighbor of mine just moved in. He's got a drag car, so I'll probably do some on the drag car. So I'll be videoing, taking pictures, and writing about it, and sharing. And it'll be like you guys. I've been watching your podcast and stuff, and I was honestly kind of intimidated. And I started looking at 100 people watch this. I think I could talk in front of 100 people. That's no big deal. I've done that before.
There's nobody here but us.
Right.
Right.
So, but it's all good. And then, I'm sure that there's stuff in here that will be helpful to other people like me. That it's like I've been talking to these teams for almost a year and gotten invaluable information, and probably avoided 100 mistakes already.
Right.
About time we save some money somewhere, just not ours.
Right. Yes. So I see that beyond what the money that I was counting on, there was also a $75 fee per driver, essentially like your competition license or whatever, be a Lemons driver.
Oh, that's annual. That's an annual license.
Okay.
And then yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you've got an entry fee which covers 4 drivers, and then you've got any additional drivers.
Okay, so that's not 75 per driver on top of that.
It's 75 per driver per year.
Okay, that's what I understood. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
don't forget your tables. You'll need at least 2. You'll need folding tables, at least 2.
Okay, that's a good point. Something I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, because you're going to find that you're going to have tools laying all over the floor.
It's on our checklist.
Yeah, it's on the checklist that Bill's going to. I mean, you can grab from the website.
And then if you ended up pitted in the grass or dirt somewhere, do you carry a tarp or some plastic to put down?
If you
How many
have
cars
a
will-
10 by 10 tent, you can work under the 10 by 10. If you happen to be there and you don't have a garage, I've seen people do that. You probably need one for yourself and your group, and for one, just in case the car. So maybe two. And then when you leave to the hotel, that you can lower the tent halfway over the car to keep the moisture out of the inside of the car, because that's what you don't want. Or, throw a tarp over it, because you don't want that moisture inside your car, because now you got, yuck on the inside of your window, dew and stuff. So yeah, there's that. You can do that.
You can put stuff on the ground. It usually doesn't ever work. So
Right.
Yeah. We found that foot lockers work for us, because the foot lockers have wheels on them, and you can get them usually like out of Walmart, and we've gotten 2 shades that are color coded. So, all fluids go into one, like hand tools go into the other. Make sure you got your torque wrench. It's very, very, very important you have your torque wrench, and a breaker bar. Those are absolutely 2 of the main things that you need to. If you don't have a breaker bar, you could probably use your jack on a wrench to dummy up one. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, just as for like a basic inexpensive setup, a couple folding chairs, make sure you have your table. Electric at most tracks can be provided, but some don't. So just keep that in mind too. So make sure you have lights that can be powered, or lanterns or stuff like that.
Okay.
tire pressure.
Trash bags.
That's a good point. Now, it's all talking until now we have a car. So it's more than talk. We have something tangible, and we can start formulating plans. Now I feel like I have to sell this idea to people, and I have to let them know what their personal expenses. So let's talk a little bit about drivers' personal expenses, like helmet, Hans device, fireproof wear, stuff like that.
So we did team Hans devices. So the team just uses them. 2 per car. So we have 4 since we typically run up to 2 cars. Everybody needs to get their own suit, gloves and shoes. Balaclavas recommended. Helmet, especially with COVID going around. We don't share helmets. It's kind of gross.
No, I agree.
And
so now
you can find the suits secondhand.
Yeah.
Also, like, you can actually get retired NASCAR suits or other race suits that, Bill has one that says Smithfield Bacon on the back of it. So we had gotten those early on. But I think, what is the minimum
so there's
rating on them?
So there's single layer suits, which aren't really great. Then there's, I think it's a .3 suit, which means you need to wear the Nomex underwear. And then there's a .5 where you don't have to wear the Nomex underwear. So we tend to just buy .5s.
I got to have a bacon suit now.
You got to get them when they come.
I think that is awesome. Or maybe sausage.
They sell out soon. Got to be careful.
Yeah.
Baby
So
back ribs. That sounds great.
So they can look online and see if anybody's selling. Just they have to make sure that it has the ratings that you want, and you can get them secondhand.
Especially
and make sure
the shape of a NASCAR driver. There's lots of those sizes.
Yeah.
There's fewer of my size. Raceimage.com is the place to go for that.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Nick Pond said in a wrap up one time. He says, "Don't tell me that race car drivers aren't athletes. That's why we sell so many 3X driver suits, right?"
Well, I mean, when I'm driving, I got to be able to flex for the photos,
Yeah. Yeah, I got some pictures of Roger in the Volvo showing us the car, and there's no way he'd get in that car with his gut without that steering wheel coming out. So I thought that was hilarious. And I'm one to talk. But okay, now, are you guys running any kind of a cool shirt or anything?
Vicky
Yes.
does. She never lets me run it, but that's fine.
No, I think into our second year, we decided to get the pool suit. And it's a really easy setup to put on. You should have one per person because nobody wants to put on a nasty shirt from somebody
Right.
else that's just been sweating. And if they want to participate, they can go ahead and do that. So it is definitely in the hot regions. It will definitely make your drivers way more comfortable. It definitely feels like an air conditioner wrapped around your body. You think that you're blasting that much cold air through the system, but when you're underneath that Nomex suit, or under that rating of a suit, and you're dealing with 90-degree temperature to 100-degree temperature, you're going to feel it.
Well,
So
it's more in the car too.
yeah. So it definitely is great. Is it a necessity? No. Is it something that you can work up to maybe in your second year and you find it to be very successful? Yeah. If you have one available and you can find it, grab it.
It's nice to have.
Yeah, it's a nice to have.
When I
But
went up-
not so much for, I mean, if you're trying to save money to start out, that's not where I would start out.
I've yet to
Yeah,
use it, so
I went up to Vincent's garage, which is so immaculate. I went up in springtime, and his garage is so immaculate.
Mhm.
I'm sitting there in my wheelchair, and he's like, "Look, when I open this door, get in here quick, because I don't want pollen in my garage." I'm like, "Okay," and went in there, and I mean, it was, like I said, immaculate. So I get in there, and he's showing me everything, and then he's showing me their cool shirt set up, and he was pretty proud of that. And then he also showed me their cool helmet set up, which
Oh, I
used the
never
cool
saw
air.
that.
Yeah, it uses the cool air inside of your cooler, which has got ice in it. Then it uses that cool air, and they use another fan system and pipe it up to the helmet.
Oh, that's
That-
pretty cool.
Yeah,
that one's pricey.
Yeah. You look at their car and you're like, there is no way this is not a $500 car. I think it's an Acura Integra.
I'm
Phenomenal
on my
engine.
ass.
And it's just it's, the whole setup is pro. So
Mhm.
I told my buddy Jeff, I said, we need to get you over there so you can see what a winning team looks like, a contending team, which we're never going to be. It was hilarious because when we were loading up the car and talking to Roger over at Duff Beer Garage, he was showing us the tires on the car and then the four in the trunk. He's like, these are all been raced on there, wore out. Me and Jeff look at each other and said, on our team, that looks like a new tire to us.
Mhm.
If that cool system's the one I think it is, that costs more than our first two cars.
Yeah, that's
Those guys are real inventive, and I think they made a lot of it.
That's different.
Yeah. I think they got a bilge pump, a cooler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they can make those.
Yeah. So they did really good with that.
Mhm.
I really appreciate you taking this time with me. It's very helpful.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I feel like I already felt like Bill's a friend of mine now. Vicky, I feel like you're a friend of mine. That's great.
So, have you thought about tools that you need to bring to the garage that are absolute necessity?
I've thought about it, but I'm not the wrench guy, so that's not been in the forefront of my mind.
All right. So obviously, if you have somebody who has some kind of talent for mechanical work, then definitely talk to them. But there are some stuff, every car has just a few basic sizes that they use, like my Miata will use like 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, maybe like 18, 20. I literally carry around a small Husky box, and I can do almost everything with the small Husky box of socket sets. With your impact, your lower impact, they have attachments to the top that you could put a socket on. That has been a really good changer. You need the bigger impact, the medium impact, a drill, because occasionally you might end up having to drill something to add zip ties to, because a whole container of zip ties can solve a lot of problems in a pinch. So,
Ones too. So
yeah, I haven't used the metal ones too much, but they're nice to haves. But sometimes you might get hit and you might have a fender issue, and especially if your fender happens to be like a flexible fiberglass, or a bumper is a flexible fiberglass, you need to hold that sucker back on, because you zip tie this whole sucker, the whole front end, just to get you through. Yeah. But when I work on the cars in the garage, I can pretty much get away with a lot of it just out of my little Husky box. And I think it's got like 150 parts in it, but I know that they have them up to like 239, but Allen wrenches depending. But if you happen to bring your emergency kit, of course your torque wrench, like I said before, your breaker bar, but if you're really in a desperate situation, baling wire to hold up your calipers if you have to go and do anything with your calipers or your shims or something like that is always good. Let me see. If you need anything else, that you can borrow it from somebody else. It's not a problem.
Well, right now it's just Jeff and I, and Jeff is a mechanic, machinist, and fabricator.
Oh, then he's got it then.
Yeah.
Probably fill up the back of his truck.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of familiarizing ourselves with that car, more so him than me, because I'm not going to be getting it in it or under it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing I was going to ask you about. It's probably a good idea to practice driver exchange and fueling routine, learning your harness and everything, and
seat positioning.
Right.
So one thing that we learned that was really, really kind of good was that, and we learned from another team, our sister team, was the surgical tubing is very, very flexible. And if you go ahead, especially with your seat, and you tie it around your harnesses and sections of your harnesses, either the harnesses, when you unhook them, can fly up and you can grab them and reattach them. But it also saves you from having to overly fish for the piece that sits between your legs, because sometimes that can drop down in between the seat. So, the surgical wire, surgical tubing, the flexible surgical tubing can hold that. That was a little tips and tricks, but depending on your car, you might not need it.
So you're just saying use that as a leash?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It saves time. Zip ties, like when we have our like for instance, our radio system into where the zip cords come in, you zip tie everything all the way in there. You're gonna need lots of zip ties. Especially if you're setting stuff up and wiring inside your car, you might have to move some stuff up and out of the way of your harnesses, hold harnesses. That's always good. I think other tips and tricks, but yeah, I would definitely figure out how people are going to fit in your seat. You can get seat padding. I mean, depending on the size, if you need to move somebody forward, you can use pads to move the smaller person forward, but be careful. My sister was not properly in and she ended up breaking 2 ribs in a crash. So that's why we now have seat fitters. But if you're putting 3 guys in there, 4 guys in there, if you have 4 guys that are in there, you may already roughly be in the same range. So it might not be that big of an issue. But for that goes, but yeah, just go ahead and position yourself in there.
You just reminded me, it seems like 4 is like the optimum number for drivers in a car.
Yeah.
That I would say that's mostly because of that guarantees decent shift times over the weekend, or
it saves your team from exhaustion too, because there's also a lot of back work that has to get done. So it's not so much the drivers alone. So it's not so much about just drivers, but you're going to have a runner. You're going to have 2 people fueling. When you have 4 in a team, you have one person that's still running the paddock. You do have a person that's running the garage. You have a person that's got to run for parts while the person's on the track. And then you need at least 2 people to fuel Plus you got that third driver. So the driver really can't hop out. I mean, they could and grab something to start fueling, but it's not optimal because they're just getting out of the car, and then you got to fit people in the car. So to properly run a team, minimum is 3, but optimum is 4.
You can do less, but you're going to need help from other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what Vincent was asking me. He's like, well, you got a car now. What kind of team you got? I said, it's just Jeff and I. He says, are you going to rent a seat? I said, are you talking about arrive and drive? He says, yeah. I said, no, that's not what I would prefer to do. Now
You know what? Not until you start knowing who those arrive and drives are.
Right.
And knowing what you're doing, because you want to be fair to the arrive and drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's true. And then Vincent, because he's a go hard #1 kind of guy, he's like, I wouldn't ride in that car for free.
And you could just say, well, then don't, because I got 4 other people who might.
That's what I told him. I said, I'm taking you off the list.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is too, is that, if you're going to do the arrive and drive, you want to make sure that your car's solid, because they're paying to be in it. And also when you start, say, for instance, like in your second or third year, you're going to know there's a few drivers that hop, they don't have their own teams, but they float around into other teams and they pay for those seats. And you'll get to know who those people are and the quality of driver that they are. And you want to make sure that you have a person that practices car empathy to your car. So they're not going to hop in the car, and you don't want that person that's going to hop in and just drive 10-10 and run your car to the ground.
right.
You want somebody who's going to be able to take care of your car. And once you know who those people are that are just looking for a seat to fill, then that's who I would bring on to pay for a seat.
No, I'd rather go down short and just have my guys do longer or more stints than put somebody I don't know in the car.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's not a problem finding. Now that we have a car, everybody wants to drive it. Well, I'm like, yeah, everybody wants to drive, but are you willing to commit to everything else that it takes to be a driver? And it goes back to what I have to do now is sell people the idea, give them an idea of what their cost per hour is going to be to drive a race car, and whether they have enough interest or passion to where it's worth it for them to do that. A lot of people just the driver's apparel and the fee would probably bump them out of wanting to do it. Right.
Yep.
So
you gotta, most of the arrive and drives are kind of, you pay for the weekend and, stuff happens, but you want to be in control of preparation so that you minimize that. But, if the first guy goes out and they get into an accident, there's not much you can do about that.
That goes back to, I wouldn't go to a race depending on the kindness of strangers or putting somebody behind the wheel that I don't know, with the risk of the short way of saying it is, I would want to go with people that I was affiliated with. That way, if I was disappointing somebody, I might have a chance to make it up to them in the long run. Whereas if it was an arrive and drive, you might not ever talk to them. So,
yeah.
The other thing too is that if you put it out there to your friends, you say, listen, this is what I'm doing, and I want to do a team, and who's interested in going, and present it as who's interested in going on this journey, because that's exactly what it is that if you're functioning on a team with people and they want to go on that journey, then they're willing to make that investment. And can they make that investment? And yes, there's upfront costs, but there's a way to make it cheaper. There are ways of making it cheaper. And just know that, it's a little bit at a time, and you guys might only be making, starting out, might only do like 1 or 2 races in the first year because of just the initial cost. But then the following year, you can probably do all of them. Say, let's just get this ball started.
right.
And look for people who are selling, like I said, look for people who are selling stuff off.
Right.
It's that season.
Well, go ahead.
This is the season where it's closing down, and there's a lot of swapping going on right now.
Well, that's absolutely true. I've made friends in different forms of racing, and now I've gotten a line on maybe a trailer and maybe some gas cans, different things. So, yeah, like you said, stuff is priced to sell at this time of year. So,
right. You know, I know one complete team that just collapsed, and I'm sure that I know the one person is going to be folding themselves up into another team, and they're probably just, you know, can't run it by themselves and don't want to run it by themselves. They're probably just going to get rid of part of their stuff. But that happens. So look for those things.
well, I was also going to talk to you about sponsorship and what is sponsorable and not. And I thought, my thought is I'm going to try to tie this in with my high school alumni association, because if I can get a few hundred people behind me, even $20 a piece, that's a pretty good resource. So if I slap our school mascot on there and stamp it's a Carry Imps, and if I put an imp on the car and take it up to our alumni watering hole, I feel like I could probably get gas, brakes, tires, and all that, you know. So
maybe we've never done it.
Well, I haven't.
I think you have to be prepared to not count on any of that stuff. So in my mind, my partner wasn't moving like I wanted him to. I'm a single guy, and because I'm disabled, I'm essentially retired. Don't have a whole lot of money, but this is the kind of racing I can do. And pretty unusual to have somebody interested in putting a race team together. It's not going to race the car. And I kind of like that. I like the whole thing because there's a lot to do. But
there will be a lot for you to do.
Yeah.
even though that, you know, you have a disability, you will be working hard.
Absolutely. And that's all this time we're spending now, and the time that I've spent talking to the other teams and meeting in person with them and hanging out. It's all means to an end. And I'm prepared if I need to. I told Jeff, I said, I'll go ahead and pay the fee to bring the cost down. I'll pay the race fee to bring the cost down enough to get the team going. Cause I feel like once we have a team and get to a race, that it'll be a momentum building thing.
Sure.
Because once you prove that you can do something, then it's easier to sell the idea to other people.
Yep.
So
I don't think you'll have trouble getting a team together. It's just it may not be the final team that you're racing with 10 years from now, but you should be able to get out there.
Okay.
And you know, I know people that, you know, once they have their team built and they might not have a team, they supplement with the race, selling the seats to the people that they know.
Right. So when you pack up to go, you got like a Suburban or big tow vehicle.
How did we start?
Yeah, just get a rental. I mean, if you do the math, you don't need a tow vehicle.
Right.
If you rent, if you want to be conservative and you want to rent a 3/4 ton pickup truck, you can rent one from Enterprise. It'll be like $400 or $500 for the weekend. And if you were to buy if you bought a new one, your payments would be way more than that.
Right.
Perhaps even 1 month payment would be way more than that. So if you can do that, you can do that as long as you want. If you want to buy something used, you can buy something used. It really depends on what your budget is. If you already have one, great. You know. Now
you say you're towing in a enclosed trailer right now?
Yeah, we have it open and an enclosed, but that's.
Now, are you loading up the car and the trailer? Like you pack the race car full of stuff too when you load it up, or?
Yeah, it's pretty full when we're done.
Okay.
It's a lot of work just loading.
Do you try and keep your tow vehicle less loaded so you can just use it for everything else, or is it loaded to the gills too?
We've been getting better about it.
It's pretty full though. I mean, the bed is always full because I bring extra tires, and we bring a grill, and we bring weird things. So the bed.
Bill's obsessed about bringing extra tires. I mean, at one time he had like 12 tires in our truck, you know.
Well, we didn't have a new set. So we had a used set on the vehicle, and then we had another used set spare, and then we had the spare set, and then we had the wet set. So yeah, I had 16 tires at one race.
So what would you say is the minimum safe tow setup, like a tandem axle trailer with brakes? Or I mean, you could dolly tow or flat tow even.
Yeah, you could. We're not experienced tow people, so we've made more mistakes than we probably should have. I like to have a little extra car or truck tow vehicle, because the minimum, like the half-ton truck, when you're passing an 18-wheeler, especially going downhill, you get a lot of butt clenching moments because the car starts to wiggle and sway, which with the 3/4 ton, it's pretty much eliminated. And then we get a load bearing sway reducing hitch. So we like that. But if you just have an open trailer, you can probably use a half-ton truck, no problem. We like to close trailer in case there's weather, and we can also put our tools and everything inside of it. So it's kind of nice.
But if you don't have that too, you can just put your stuff in containers and just carry it that way. Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect your first race.
No.
Right. Have you ever had occasion that you had to pull into a weigh station or anything?
Nope.
No. Okay. We've had people on our team want me to pull into a weigh station.
Yeah. I'd be curious. There was a out of use scale for years near here, and I used to take my car by there and weigh it and stuff just for the heck of it.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. Well, the last category I have is track. Now, different tracks, I suppose, have different options on what space you can buy, garage space or what they call, I've heard them call RV space, something with power. So I guess that's just track specific when you go to sign up.
Yeah.
What level and what typically do you guys do? You go for a garage space, I would imagine.
So CMP is notorious for not having power or Wi-Fi.
I heard that that's a sticking point. That's the reason why they didn't race there last year, was they overbooked what they called RV spaces, and a lot of people thought they were going to have power and didn't have with power. And the race organizers and the track managers went after each other, and there was some kind of a conflict over new management or something. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know.
So what we end up usually doing is we need to upgrade our generator, but we usually go through a service called RV Share or Outdoorsy, and we can rent a deliverable unit RV that comes, just because that if it's just Bill and I, we'll either stay in my sister's RV or we'll, for an HPDE event, then we'll go to a hotel. But if we have the full family, then we'll do it that way, because that way it gives the option to stay at the track. Tenting is okay. Bill is not a tenter. There are showers that are on most tracks have showers. Some are gamey. Some are gamey.
Flip-flops are a great thing.
Yeah, but for the most part, most places have showers and restrooms that you could use. So we mostly now rent the garages, but starting out, we would just have a tent and stay in the trailers.
Yeah, we're going to be on the cheap, so we'll be camping.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have, so
if you're camping and you're cheaping and you're getting a tow vehicle, think about like a big Suburban.
I got one for you.
Okay, I
ahead,
guess
Bill,
the bulldozer's going. So go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Finish up your statement.
You announce your presence with authority.
I did.
But if you get like a Suburban, you can throw like a queen size bed in the back, and you can have sleeping arrangements covered. That's one way to get cheap, and you got a tow vehicle and a hotel room all in one. So.
The other thing is that Walmart now has something called tent cabins or cabin tents, and they are double entry, very large, very easy to assemble tents that you could probably store most of your stuff in and sleep in it. And honestly, you could probably sleep 10 people in this thing. It sets up almost like a cabin. It doesn't have a lot of parts to it. If you are tenting, that's a great way of doing it. Having a small generator in case you don't have electric, in case you need to do your crock pots, but
Welder.
that's a way of doing it too. Huh?
Welder.
But for the most part, tracks usually have power sources. Most of them do. And if you do want to have the power, I've seen them about $30, to have a plug-in.
Yeah. Now, typically, do you guys get there on a race weekend? Do you get there Thursday night, Friday morning?
I'm anal, so I'm there when the gate opens.
Mhm.
And then on Friday morning?
Thursday, if it's open Thursday, I'm there Thursday.
Yeah, tech
Okay.
starts on Friday.
Okay.
So, and it I don't know if it starts at noon or maybe 10.
10.
Yeah. So, and for COVID, they actually had you on a schedule to do that. And you could arrange, I guess, for schedules if you weren't there on time or not. But Bill we would get there early just so we can get preferred spacing. But if you're in a tent, you might not have to really worry too much about that. Because the trailers are usually all up in the front part and the tents are usually in the more grassy areas of the track.
I would get there early if you're racing at Thompson, for instance. So
yeah.
So it's if you don't rent a specific garage space, or if there's not one available, it's kind of first come, first serve on
Yeah.
on dirt or grass or whatever.
Yeah. And,
Now-
and if you have small
ahead.
tents, you could pretty much put them anywhere.
Okay. Now, do you guys like to walk the track?
100%.
Do you feel like that's helpful?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even if you've been there numerous times, you still like to walk it?
Yep.
Every time.
Because
Okay,
you see
great.
you see the track differently. And I know in our part, which is in the Northeast and Middle Atlantic region, our group has instructors that are already drivers, and they usually go ahead and explain the track out to you. And maybe in the southern region, they may have instructors that are doing the same thing. So if you have the benefit of being along with an instructor that's explaining to a group, they are very welcoming for you to ask any questions. But go ahead and take that trip, because what you think the track is is one thing, but when you walk it is completely different. And they also meant to tell you on Friday when you show up, they also have practice day.
That was the next thing I was going to ask you is, do you get out on track on Friday, or do you feel like if you have things ironed out, you don't want to risk getting out there? Or
If you have things ironed out, you're not risking anything, is our philosophy.
Yeah. But if you, there is a fee to get on. Usually there's a fee to get on for Fridays, but especially if you have new drivers and people have never been on the track before, I highly recommend that at least if you're starting out with a new team, that you guys go ahead and do that, because it will save you from trying to figure out how that track is supposed to run when all the cars are on it.
Now,
And
that's
get you
interesting.
and get
Go
used
ahead.
to the car and iron
Right.
your car out, because you all of a sudden you might be driving and all of a sudden you realize that you have no shims, or you might have blown a shim and you got a front end wobble. But if you have a new car, if you have an opportunity to have somebody take it to an HPDE and drive it, or a simple track day in America trip, that's something you can do just to iron out some stuff.
Right.
Or go ahead, Bill.
The one thing that we did, which, we were a first time team, first time race. We went to the track. We got everybody out our first event on practice day. And then we'd become friends with a team that has lots of experience, and one of their drivers who's really good at driving. He took our car out and he said, "This is what you got to do. It's not bad, but if you do these 3 things, it'll be so much better." And that's just one of the reasons why you would want to do practice.
Mhm.
How busy is it usually on Fridays? Pretty busy.
Not very busy at all.
Not compared to
Okay.
a race.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if there's 20 cars out there at one time.
So that's a good time to get out there and do a little shakedown then.
Exactly.
Okay. Now that's surprising to me that there's an extra fee for a Friday practice, because I thought that your entry fee covered your practice. What is it the same fee for practice at every track, or?
No, it's some of them are run by Lemons and some of them are run by the track. Most of them are run by the track. So each track runs it kind of different. Some are just like, hey, you paid your fee. Let's just say it's $200 for the car and anybody can drive. Okay, great. And then other places it'll be 150 for the car and then 25 for the driver. And then other places it'll be, we have 3 groups and you go out for 20-minute sessions each group. And those are the ones that are less valuable to us.
Okay. All
so
right. Well,
they're all different.
That's what I would call a hidden cost. So
Yeah.
that's good to know.
It's usually going to be 150s cheap and $300 would be towards the higher end for Friday practice.
Okay. And normally you would always run on Friday.
Unless it's a track that everybody's driven at and we're very comfortable with. Yes. If we have somebody who's never been there, we always try and get them out on practice if we can. And there's some teams that won't run practice because they're like you said before, they're worried that the car is going to break. But we always think that, if you prepared your car, the little bit of time you're going to be out on track on Friday shouldn't matter because you're planning on doing 500 laps or more on the weekend. So if you're out there for 80 laps on Friday, who cares?
So if you got up there on Friday and it was raining, would you stick your car out in the rain?
Always love rain. Rain's great.
Okay.
I would just be careful with it.
All right.
And focus not so much about going fast, just feeling the car and knowing where the line is, learning where that racing line is.
So I don't know if you noticed this, but there's certain times that like when you're in a race and it rains, just
Oh, sure. And when I first started talking to Andrew, one of the Buick guys, Matthews Buick guys,
mm-hmm.
he sent me his in-car, and it was raining at CMP during the 24-hour race.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that the Buick and the Volvo have in common is Roger Matthews says the Buick is a beast in the rain, and Roger says the same thing about the Volvo. He says we love it when it rains. So
yeah, it slows everybody. It slows the fast car down, make your car relatively faster.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When they were running second place in Kentucky, he said that I talked to him Saturday night. He said, "Well, we're never going to catch that car unless they break or it rains." He says we can really roll in the rain. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's a lot about the driving that I'll never know, but it seems like some of the most important things are keep an eye on corner stations.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
don't miss a
flag awareness, because one of the main things that should be under our control is black flags.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can't miss a yellow flag.
No,
So-
and you'll have a track meeting, especially for a new driver meeting. Please make sure you go ahead and pay attention to either the online new drivers, and make sure you show up for the ones that are going to be held at the track, because they're going to explain all the flags to you, all the precautions to you, what their expectations of your team, your new team, is going to have to be. And it will be invaluable. And plus you'll meet some of the other new teams that are there also.
Right. Now, I was wondering about the race start. It seems to me like the cars get out and circulate before the flag drops.
In Lemons, yeah.
So is there like a typical scenario? What time's the race typically start? About 10?
9 or 10, yeah.
So would there be then there has to be a point where they say the track is open and the cars go circulate, and then they just are circulating when the flag drops.
Yeah, there's no way to play the game.
Okay.
Like you can't time it.
No, I understand that with 100-car field, there's no way that you could. And you wouldn't want them all to grid start anyway. You would want them to be spread out.
No, usually the organizers, they'll choose either a car that they think is really cool or a car that's really slow, or and they'll drop the flag right in front of them. Or if there's a car that they don't really like, they'll drop the flag right after they go by, so they're in last place.
Okay.
So but it's not a game you can play. You can't win. You just kind of, it is what it is. And
well, you're
really
never going to
matter.
win anything on the first lap anyway. But I was just curious about how that went underway, and then it seemed like end times were fairly arbitrary. It didn't seem like they were dropping the flag strictly on a minute, right?
It's usually plus or minus a couple minutes from the end time of the day. But if something happens and there's a car that needs to get towed in or something, they'll just call it early,
So I imagine everybody's looking at Race Monitor. That's something that I've been looking ever since I got involved with these.
Yep, Race Monitor and Race Hero.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Now, what about transponder location?
I think it's 16 inches or closer to the track with a straight line to the track itself with nothing metal in between, and then make sure it's secure.
So
front or back.
Typically people wouldn't mount it at the very front of their car.
Oh, that's where they mount it.
Okay. Well,
up underneath on your frame.
You wouldn't want it in a place where it could get damaged. So.
No. Ours is mounted to the inside frame.
And it doesn't matter if it's the front of the car or the back of the car. It doesn't matter.
That's the other thing I was wondering is during the warm up to the start is probably when they're checking to make sure everybody's counting.
Yep. And they'll call you in if they'll say, hey, your telemetry is not working, or hey, your transponder's got low battery, or they'll let you know.
I was wondering because I've been involved in radio controlled hobbies for a long time, and what we would do, we have the similar type of lap count with a buried antenna or an antenna suspended, and then we would have the drivers go over and by hand run their transponder across the line and make sure it was counting.
Essentially the same. We're just lazier, so we drive the car.
Okay.
That's funny.
So
and for the first year you can rent your transponder, so it's like $50 a race. Otherwise they're like $500 to $700 depending on which kind you get.
Oh, so you do end up buying your own.
Yeah, we have two.
Okay.
Three
I mean,
now.
Again, it's further down the road.
Okay. All right, great.
So what I would say is, you're starting a team, you eventually need to just come up with a budget, right? And right away take away all your costs for the races. And that includes gas, consumables, keep a little bit spare for, I broke something, unless you're going to have a flexible budget, which we do. And then whatever's left is your nice to have budget. And then just each year you get to be a better team.
Well, that's where I'm at. I have a car. I have the interest. I have somebody else that's interested. From here, it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to fill out a couple spots and the logistics of getting there. And then I think maybe it'd be a better idea for me to get to Road Atlanta without a car, take it all in, and then I'd like to document it for the other guys, because as racers, you guys don't have enough time to take pictures and videos, talk to people, and I know all of them would appreciate that, and it'd give me just a good feel for what goes on and get a chance to meet some people. And more people I meet, the better informed decisions, and actually the more resources there are. So like this talk tonight, which has gone on longer than I thought it would, but it's been really helpful.
Well, Vicky's here, so it's going to go long. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why we put out the checklist, because a lot of teams either I've heard of teams that argue about having a checklist. We don't need a checklist, but you do. And
Right.
I put it out there so you don't have to start from a blank Excel sheet or Word file. So,
Well, that's as simple as you and I talking, and you're like, well, you want to do the podcast? You said get together questions, and I could ask questions off the top of my head, but it's makes much more sense for me to write it all down because,
yeah,
you know, we could spend 2 hours talking and me forget to ask a lot of things that I thought would be pertinent to ask,
but,
not just for myself, but for anybody else that comes along and wants to take the time to listen to this, which is great. So.
And you know what
else?
else?
I'm going to make all my friends listen to it anyway. So
Yeah.
Well, you can always ask us again. It doesn't have to be on a podcast. We'll help anytime.
Sure. I understand. I really do appreciate it. I'm satisfied. I had a pretty long list, and you answered everything and a few more things that I wasn't smart enough to ask. So I really do appreciate it.
We've been where you are.
Well,
some days we're still there.
Yeah. No, I'm a bullshit artist, and it seems like this fits right into my wheelhouse. So,
You should definitely go to Road Atlanta, though. I think you'll have a great time, and you'll feel more comfortable preparing for your first race.
Well, I think that's a great point, Bill. And then the other thing is, if I go down without a car, then I can enjoy myself.
And listen, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Oh,
and go up and talk to people and ask them and tell them what you're doing and watch what they're doing and how they function. And more importantly, watch how they run their team, watch how they organize.
Right.
Because that's huge knowledge.
There'll be certain moments throughout the weekend where teams just hit a particularly bad point in their day, where they may not be as sociable or helpful as you wish them to be, but realize they're trying to get back out on the track. But if there's no car parked there, most teams are like, come on in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, I found that to be the rule rather than the exception. It's like when I go sit with Roger in his incredibly messy office, the guy's really super smart, but it's hard to describe. It's very entertaining, and the guy has stories. Unbelievable racing stories, and it's just a really good time. And then I'll ask him once in a while. I said, I'll say, "Will you let me know if I'm bothering you?" He says, "No." He says, "That's the thing about racing," and he said, especially Lemons racing. People love to talk about it. They love that people are excited about it. They want to see other people get involved in it, be successful, and that's exactly what happened. And the strange thing was when he got back from Kentucky, I talked to him right after the race, congratulated him. He was pretty happy about it. When he got back from Kentucky, I did not know he was selling that car. Andrew from Matthews Buick team sent me the post to the forum that Roger had put up there. And then I called Roger immediately. I said, "Hey, you didn't say you were going to sell a Volvo." He says, "Yeah." He said, "We got it to win Class C. And now that we won Class C with it, we don't want to run it in B. They'll make us run it in B." He says, "We got a Civic we want to run in B, and we're done with it." I said, "Well, but you didn't tell me you were selling it." He goes, "I don't like selling a car to people I know." And I said, "I get that. I get it. But I was very fortunate to get this car because it's a qualifying car, class winner, fresh off the track in town. So it doesn't get any better than that." And not only that,
unless they put the beer in it.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, I didn't have any way to move it. I called Matthew up. Matthew's like, "Yeah, when you want to go?" So it's only because of talking to people like you guys and trying to show them that I'm serious about getting involved. And now that I have a car, they know I'm not just talking. So, I need to let you guys go. It's been a great conversation, and I really appreciate the time.
Well, it's always fun to talk cars, and if we can help in the future in any way, let us know. If you ever come up with a team name, let us know. Send us pictures of the car. We'd love to see it.
I'm bouncing a couple things around right now, and what I was thinking about doing. Excuse me, I've got to get the duff off of that car. I think I sent you pictures of it, didn't I, Phil?
Not sure. I'll check. If not, I'm going to
Anyway,
meet him because I need to publicize this
okay.
podcast.
Okay, great. I'll definitely do that, but I'm going to take the duff off of it, and then I have to talk to my partner about it. But I think he's letting me roll on the creative side, and he's going to do the mechanic and driving side. But I've been thinking about painting it all with primer and calling it Optimus Primer.
That's a good one.
So we'll see.
That's fine.
So we can do some funky robot lights and crap with it. Maybe give it like a kit car voice, go through BS Tech and have the car talking crap in a robot voice to them or something. And then
True spirit of Lemons.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But it won't be until we sit with the car and rub the fenders and make it our own and agree on something. That's just my thought for right now. But it could mutate. Sometimes these things name themselves.
Sure.
But I'm in it for the fun.
Yep.
It's like I told Jeff. He says, "We got a race car." I said, "No, we don't. It's not a race car. Look at it. It's not a race car." Another friend of mine said, "How fast will it go?" I said, "I don't know. Probably not that fast."
Nope.
You think it'll do 100? I said, maybe if you dropped it out of an airplane, it might do 100.
Yeah.
But I said, what we have is an endurance car. It's not a race car. So we'll see. We'll see.
Have fun. That car's
But
done
I'm
well.
super excited. I'll tell you what, I'm as excited about being there and meeting people of like mind who are out there to enjoy themselves as I am about the car being on the track. So to me, it's all good.
Yep.
It's fun.
It's an adventure that I'm really looking forward to, and I feel like I'm already on it.
Well,
Thanks for including me.
You're welcome.
I already feel like a part of the community, and that means a lot.
Well, at some point in the South, when we head down there, I have no doubt we're going to cross paths.
Oh, absolutely.
Look forward to it.
I do too. I sure do too.
Okay. Well, you've got some responsibility taking care of that Duff car, so make sure you take care of it.
Keep us posted. Oh, and hop on, invite yourself onto Citrus Race Lounge. Citrus Racers Lounge. That's where everybody's at in Lemons.
And the unofficial
Lemons on Facebook.
All right, great. Send me, Bill, Vicky, feel free to send me any kind of information, links, or anything that you think might be helpful.
Okay.
I can use all of it.
Yeah.
No
if you want to know what's happening, that's where everybody's at.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right. So
right now we're just kind of Duff Light. That's what I told Roger. I said we can be Duff Light for now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if you've ever met Roger, but he's like Homer Simpson with glasses. He's a riot, and he needs to be on your podcast. If you want some good racing stories, I'll see if I can talk him into giving you a call, because he's got terrific, all kind of good Lemon stories from concourse with the Jet Electrica and the Triumph Stag to Lemons Rally in a 3-cylinder Geo Metro to Lemons Racing, the whole thing, all of it.
That would be great. We'd look forward to it.
All right, great. Hey, thanks again, you guys. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, you too. Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.